Let's unmute myself. Oh, there we are. Sorry if I just bolted. If I'm too loud and everybody's here. What's up? Decided to skip the intro because we started really late. I just wanted to get on with it. I wanted to play one song to warm everybody up. Time Wave Zero by Scar Symmetry, which, that album is a freaking sick album. It's a whole album dedicated to, like, concepts within quantum mechanics. Very cool stuff. Henrik Olsen, the drummer, I interviewed a long time ago on my Ghost in the Machine radio show when I was on Revolution Radio. This was back in 2014. That's a bazillion years ago. Very few people knew who the hell I was. Like Emily Moyer. Emily Moyer knows who the hell I was. And when I found that out, I was like, oh my fucking God, this is cool. And that's why I got Emily Moyer on my TFR show, because it's like meeting an old friend. And that's kind of cool ways that fate gets interwoven together. And we're going to be talking a whole lot about how fate gets interwoven together tonight. You guys know Gabe, Slick Dissident, Dissident. I keep getting the two flipped in my head. I said on Telegram, and I looked back. I was like, wait, dissident. Why did I, because I'm doing things. I'm just trying to type it. It's like, shit, memory hole. With the memory hole. So he's got his channel where he's this mad genius decrypting the occult information and sharing with everybody how he's figured it out. He's got this big trip upon the 9-point Enneagram, which does fit in nicely with a tremendous amount of things. And so we're going to be hearing all sorts of talk about the Enneagram. We're going to be talking about the Thoth Tarot deck or whatever. There's going to be a whole lot of what you hear on Interverse with Chance, but now you're going to hear Gabe having this conversation with me, and that's a whole other game, and I don't always get to participate in the live chat and feed Chance my genius. I have to give him side gravy every once in a while. I have to throw a comment in and gets it later. But anywho, yeah. And so this is also important to me just because I had, and it's lost. I didn't archive it, and it was on the last incarnation of my YouTube channel. I did for season 1. I did a whole overview of season 1 where I explained, this is the mythological parallels. Here's what it means. Here's how it's going with what's relevant to us in the world, right? I am a Mandela effect experiencer, okay? My childhood had a different set of things that had always been than the day that I live in now. Eisenhower was on my dime, for instance, right? That's an anchor memory. I had conversations with my dad about presidents' dimes, heads kinds of thing, because my dad, liked giving me that American glory education himself. He's a boomer. He's tried and true American Catholic boomer from the Northeast. Right? And so that's why the Mandela effect is very interesting, because I'm seeing all of that pop culture stuff that definitely enveloped all that, right? So I know it. I fucking, there's things about Mandela effect that I just fucking know. And that is why this shit is very important to me, because I've been, I'm friends with Dr. Sean David Morton, who wrote the novels Sands of Time. He almost fucking died, and nobody fucking cares about him, and I resent that amongst all the people that he worked to do things for.
Hold on, Zerilath. Yeah. You're going too far, too fast.
Yeah, I'm
sorry,
man.
Hold on. I gotta get in.
Get in, please. My bad.
Sands of Time was the comments you put in the show last night. Sands of Time inspired me to make the fucking graphic that I'm itching for you to bring up right now.
Okay.
To explain how Slick Dissident, what he does. Bring up the one with the tower in the teeth, because my friend.
Okay.
I'm here to tell you it's the mandible effect.
Mandible.
It's the mandible effect, and we're going to double masticate everything we thought we knew. You got to pull this. You got to pull this up.
All right.
This was inspired by you saying that the he who remains, that his statue is comprised of the sands of time. That lit me up so big, Zerilath, because I realized
strike
that this bust.
This last one you sent me with the Enneagram on top and like a goose or something on the bottom.
That's the one, buddy.
That's the one.
This is for you. This is your spirit sparked a fire in me live in the show.
All right.
And after the show, I was up all night making this for you. This is so fun.
Oh, baby. Look at that. Look at that. You see, like, this is, what is this, right? I got inspired in my early Norse shit, like, by the concept of the Kvasir, because I thought his significance was underrated. And so I wanted to kind of put a little bit of champion in that. This is me running around like the essence of the mead of poetry. I just show up, I inspire you, solves your problem, I move on, everybody has a good day. That's Kvasir. That's what I just did for Gabe. This is how living the mythos works, folks. Unlock your powers. That's what they're there for. Okay. Let me just open it now.
Now pass the Kvasir.
Pass the Kvasir. All right. Oops. Okay, now, hold on. I got to do everything in Zoom because I'm not sure what's going to get screwed up on my OBS side. So share screen. Perfect. Boom. Boom. Okay.
Right.
There we go. Let me see how that looks on the feed going out to make sure everybody can see it. Just need a minute. It's on a delay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. I don't see it on the screen. I can. All right. Can you see that? All right.
I don't see it either.
Yeah, you don't see it either? Oh, okay. Oh, that's what I was afraid of. All right. Hang tight. How do I undo this? Okay, stop share.
I'll start ranting just a little on it because it's such a long, deep rant. I'll just start warming up.
Yeah. Go for it.
So a part of this has to do with that there is a new meteor shower that was initiated this year under Sagittarius. In the time of Sagittarius, the meteor shower is located kind of between Sag and Capricorn. It's pretty much in Capricorn. Let me look closer.
All right.
Nope. It's between Capricorn and Aquarius, really. But so the location of the constellation it's the Sculptor meteor showers. This new meteor shower, it's a virgin birth. It's the Immaculate Conception. And it shatters my paradigm because I was just moving into the understanding and getting apprehension over the current meteor shower cycles. And I think that the 360-degree view of whatever spiritual being that can see in all directions, I think that is an encode for not just knowing eclipse cycles, but also the meteor cycles. I think there's a huge, subtle art to harnessing these energies. So I was just getting used to how many meteor showers we had, and now there's a new one. So this shatters my paradigm. And it's okay because I just moved in. I'm glad it shattered my paradigm while I was new to the neighborhood. But this meteor shower is happening on this Sculptor constellation. And all of a sudden, a million signs and symbols of significance from hundreds of years come together like a strange prophecy that I'm going to call, thanks to your comment last night, we're going to call it the donkey jaw mandible effect. And this is slaying 40 Philistines with the donkey jawbone. This is also the real Mandela effect, my friend. I think this, for me, this is hitting for my Mandela effects in super crazy ways. But so the location on Earth that this phenomenon is located, it's in Perth, Australia, which is the location that they found the first black swan ever. So the word Perth, the rune Perth, and that location down under is the symbol of fragility. A black swan is a symbol of fragility, and Perth rune looks like a tooth. It looks like a tooth. And this is so next level to me because I've been studying these tarot cards, and the teeth have become the ultimate symbol of fragility. And I mean this on all levels and all aspects of the sounds that we use to say the word fragility. I'm not just talking about I'm not talking about the first definition that comes to mind. I'm talking about all 200 definitions that come to mind if you let me finagle every letter down the road.
Gotcha. Okay, so check it out. I got it. I had to run it through OBS for whatever reason. Zoom didn't like it. Maybe it's too many bits or something. So I'm just going to put it right here. Going to have the tower dividing us. I think that's okay. That works. That's framed up nicely. We're not concealing your face.
Nice. Yeah, buddy.
All right. So talk to us, my man. Show us this gem.
First of all, nice kung fu, by the way. I'm impressed that you can do that. I really admire folks that bend this machine to their will. That's fucking good kung fu.
Yeah, you just got to make the right choices with your with what programs you're running through. Don't just run everything you're trying to do through StreamYard, right? I got this and Zoom running at the same time to get to YouTube. Anyway, go on.
Nice. All right. So a lot of this particular so when you mentioned the sands of time being symbolized by that statue, I realized that it was so in my face I had missed it. That the statue having its face struck or having a flaw put in it, like Xerxes drawing blood from Xerxes for the first time, it was symbolic of this new meteor shower that's exploding my own head. That it's even that's even a thing. Now I have to go back to my Tycho Brahe roots and reinforce what I thought I knew. So my paradigm is shattered. There's a Mandela effect where now people are going to say, oh, yeah, there's this many meteor showers. And I'm like, not when I was growing up, there was actually this number. So the sacredness of the number has shifted. Mm-hmm. And that in itself is a paradigm. But I just want to say, I believe that the true secret of the double-row teeth Nephilim, the real secret of secrets, is not literal, the metaphor behind it, is that language run through the anagrams accesses the Metatron on an even deeper level. And this is revealed when you look at the phrase this just kind of comes through the work on that graphic, but strike the tower is an anagram for extra row teeth. And I read that as you think you know a word, you build up your understanding of what magnanimity means, and then Slick Dissident comes along and says, no, it's also the Magnamator. And then your tower falls apart and you build it up, and it's the same tower. It's still the ship of Theseus, but it has a deeper meaning. And then I come and I knock that down and I tell you, no, it also means Agamemnon. And now you have this shape-shifting grasp of the tools that make the sounds for magnanimity, Magnamator, Agamemnon, all these things. That's something that I'm doing. And I think that the Mandela effect of the mandible effect is that we have to masticate on these words longer. When you take these words in, you think you have command over them, you break them down to even smaller pieces. And when you reflect back on the reality you thought you had command over, that you thought you ate this word, you weren't done. You look back and it had deeper, more profound meaning, and that is nesting intention in the future that can be sparked off and triggered for social engineering. So this is the anagrams are double mastication. They're double masticating. We're eating it twice. You thought it was the one thing on the first time. You come back a second time, and now you really have a true taste of the flavor of what those letters were conveying.
Right, exactly. And you know, this is why it's this odd thing. It comes off absurd at first because we only digest it in through jokes in our culture as puns, right? But a pun isn't always for joke context. It's also for depth of meaning in general, and this all comes from its other associations because you're kind of getting down to prefixes, suffixes, root words. So on and so forth, and when you're getting down to that, you're getting down to primordial tonalisms, right? And all that stuff is there, but it doesn't have the same relationship that you're psychologically conditioned to, as it's just because, we used to be cavemen and we go oonga boonga, right? It's not that. Although that is actually part of the story, because look at the phenomenon of cognitive decline. You can't say your civilization is progressing if you see clear and present evidence of expanding cognitive decline, where the public focus of the masses are things that are a dismissal of rational thought. And you kind of see this with the 24/7 Dionysian party going on in like places like LA and New York and stuff, right? And I'm all for a Dionysian party. Have a good fucking time. But for fuck's sake, you got to get up at 8 in the morning at some point. It is a sun thing, right? The sun does get up at 8. You too, Mr. Worship It. Right? That's my bit. Right? That's my whole bit about it, and that typically keeps people from touching little boys and girls. We think, we assume, we hope, right? We don't understand it, but it's so unfathomable that we're gonna suffocate you under a bog swamp thing, and that's pagan law. To bury you in a swamp under a stone for sodomy. And I don't think it was just because somebody was gay. I think it was worse than that. I think otherwise it was just a private matter, right? Because I think people have been people for a long ass time. And there's got to be a reason why there's a little bit of weird gender stuff going on that was allowed with the personification of characters, which this is all very important to the Loki aspect. So with this tower, are we going to assert that this tower also is a representative of that central point, the throne of He Who Remains?
That's a good question. In the context of Loki, it's just a bit of a jump. This graphic is more for our Mandela effect. I want to say the Millenniagram Falcon. It's double mandible. That's what they call that front. It's double mandible, which is used for shipping containers. And so I just want to kind of give more context to the visual information here. Also, the tower card itself has double rows of teeth. If you look really closely, one of the mouths is showing the double row teeth.
Right. This and then this also gives allusion to what is it? Mount Doom, Sauron's tower in Lord of the Rings, which the eye sits in between these two peaked points, these two things. They kind of come up like bat ears or a horned beast of sorts, and there's always got to be that demonization of the horned beast. Even though, here's the funny thing about the demonization of the horned beast. I can't find anywhere in nature a horned beast that's a carnivore or an omnivore. They're all herbivores, the horned beasts. They don't eat flesh. They're not interested in hostilities towards other living beings, except sparring over a partner. And that's about it.
Yeah, I'll say this. You're talking about Sauron and horned beasts, and I happen to know that Fomal Halt is the Eye of Sauron that the art is based upon. And right next to Fomal Halt is the Grus. And this is the foot of the witch. This is the Pedrus. This is the alarm system. This is the horn. The goose has the horn. So you just said you were talking about the Eye of Sauron, which is in Pisces Austrinus, and Grus is right there. The next thing you said was horn, and there's no beast with the horn. I'm like, bro, you're in the stars, and the next animal is the animal with the horn.
Right.
And that's pretty fun. That's pretty fun to. And just around the corner, by the way, is the tower. So like I just want to tell everybody in the stars, we're only within 20 degrees, and the sun is 30 degrees. That's my planchette. And if something on the star map is 30 degrees away from something else, they're like in the same family. They're like close cousins, and you can find it in our language. All of our turns of phrase, all of our little silly colloquialisms are actually immortalized by the ancestors in our heavens in fun ways. But I want to say this about, you said pedophilia earlier.
I did, sir.
Yeah, man. Philia. This word is one of the fragiles, the fragiles, that I invoked when I invoked the black swan. Why are they calling it the love of children? That's not what it is. Why are we being led to lie to ourselves when we use the word they're giving us? Let's double masticate this. Let's chew on it a little deeper. Is it pedophilia? Is it pedophilia? The philia is the ultimate sensitivity. It is the ultimate skill to have command over your feelings, your servitor, your higher self. I believe that the pedophilia is called what it is to keep the sensitivity in our language. We all know it should have been called pedivore a long time ago, but we're not going to get that change because it has to have a root in the philia, and that's hitting you right in the heart center.
Okay.
This philia and many figures of speech are the transition to your inner child. These figures of speech are speaking to ancient selves that are sublimated in your soul, and they hear all these giggly little playful little turns of phrase. They hear all of them.
Yeah.
They're keeping track and having a good time, but you got to be an adult. You can't be speaking kid language.
Yeah. You will come under the cruel hand of Loki for sure if you continue onward with these things, these unconscious things, because that's what he does, right? He exploits your unconscious weaknesses. Sometimes you get a warning shot because of the way just fate is and how your overall situation is. But sometimes you're going to get in a car accident because you're not fucking paying attention.
Yeah, buddy.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's without this whole corruption of Loki thing, which is an aspect of my understanding that is coming from a lot of particulars that I've been looking at since way before paganism got popular, because it was all this was in the mix in my personal development. So it's crazy how it's all coming together, and it's crazy how I can use something like the Loki show to platform stuff I'd been very interested in for a long time, because that's why I brought up Sands of Time again now, was because of the Sean David Morton thing with that book that I read is this idea that there's been a time war going on, right? And that time war is associated with the intergalactic and interdimensional exopolitics, right? That is all part of the conspiracy soup that had been percolating about the deep state for decades. And so, that's part of the passions that got me here. Right. So this has to be reconciled, because either it's a big psychological thing going on that I have to purge myself of because the Mandela effect is just telling me that that's what it is, or time can actually be changed. Either way, I am not a madman because I am aware of those questions. Because it's the significance of the question which is what makes what we're doing important. That's why what we're doing is important. It's not just nerds into quantum physics talking about clever TV shows. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, one of my favorite jokes that was laying dormant in my mind. That one thing about this spell of going back and realizing so many things we consumed did not mean what we thought they did. One of my favorite reveals to this one here is in terms of like the this Mandela effect. It's in White Men Can't Jump. Woody Harrelson, he's goofing off with his girlfriend in the bedroom, and he's like, what was Socrates' last words? I drank what? And it's like a bad joke. It wasn't even funny at the time, but that's like typical boyfriend kind of thing to do. And now I'm looking back at his joke, and I'm like, oh, shit. We were wrong. We drank what? So, Socrates and suiciety. I'm reassessing suiciety in a very serious way because they just did a very dangerous civic command for everybody who was making the weaker argument the stronger. They had to take a very bitter pill just recently. And so Socrates has been re-injected into the zeitgeist in a very fascinating way because scientific optimism has gone completely gluttonous. And we can blame Socrates for this, but we can also find the remedy in studying him better.
Right. Yeah. Well, scientific optimism is so it's leaped into this level of absurdity.
Right.
They're spending I don't know what trillions amount of dollars on the Hadron Collider, which is the thing that it makes its money on the conspiracy theories about the quantum shit going on alone. All they have to do is say they turned it on, and everybody will just have some rationalization to that to why a weird thing happened, right? Like that's how much psychic attention that the Hadron Collider, because it's if it's a real thing, I mean, it's this massive fucking ring that goes across, it's a multinational facility, right? What happens if those three nations have a disagreement? The technocrats have to run those fucking nations. Those nations, would not break because, there's no way they'd give up on the treasure they have of whatever the Hadron Collider actually does. Is the Victor Timely variant bad guy here, right? Like what horrible thing is going to happen to us, when the event happens? Is there going to be an event? Right? These are real questions that people that are scientifically eloquent, they're asking. It swims in the science fiction. It swims in the weirdness of their day. It comes up in all sorts of conversations. Lots of nerds are having fun with it, and a lot of people know a thing or two about it. And so, yeah, it feeds. This stuff is very real to people, and it is very real to me, whether it's the Hadron Collider or not, because as a pagan, we're in the weird, right? And this story is about the idea of what happens when a man reaches an apotheosis to and gains control of the weird. And because man is the measure of all things, there can be only one timeline. And that's what I think is going on right there, And what's Victor Timely's big flaw? You don't want to share power. You don't want to share power at all. There's a dynamic there. And then another thing I'm thinking about, because what is the TVA in our mythos here? They're the Norns. That's their representation of because there's the three Norns, but those Norns all have little Nornies, and they go out, and those are your personal Norns, right? So you'll get them showing up, telling you things if you know how to listen to them. They're these little female spirits, that come to you and tell you a thing or two about what once was, what the worth of something is, and what you should do about it. Because that's the essence of the Norns, right? In this continuity of Marvel mythos, the Living Tribunal is apparently nothing more than this automaton play that is put on for the to uphold the purpose of the TVA, right? And it puts the purpose of the TVA into question because obviously, they're temporal Nazis and that's not good. And Loki is not defending them as Nazis, but he merely asks, perhaps they can exist with purpose, right? And Sylvie just sees it for what it is as no way, and that's a load of horse shit for why there can't be. And it's just very interesting the way that they play on what persuades the Enchantress to want to help, right? And so the female Loki values and really kind of dialing it in how that works, right? Because we don't quite get enough of that. The closest we get to that is very poorly done by all of the Harley Quinn MK Ultra. There's a Harley Quinn MK Ultra going on, which is sad because Harley Quinn is awesome. But man, they took her to town and they programmed the fuck out of bitches. Woo, my God. And they wear that programming in their hair. Anyway, I love them though. I really do. I'm still a nerd like that. I have to be. I didn't get like this so I could throw away all the fun stuff I liked about the times I failed.
Nice.
You might catch me at an anime con at some point,
The fun times I failed. That's a great phrase. I'm keeping that.
There you go. I don't know how any of this works anymore. I'm Samwise. I'm your gardener, and once in a while your protector.
Nice. So yeah, one thing, kind of like a whole 4,000-foot overview on Loki that I think might be a couple broad claims could be made. I sense that they're kind of showing us how the sausage is made in story writing. Yeah. I think they're getting heavy-handed on purpose. I feel like they're passing us the torch to say, if you guys want to pick up and start the new Hollywood, this is kind of the scaffolding. And the reason for that is because it's so obvious. I said it last night. I can't flash my books or my images because of the screen on Zoom, but the Crowley Tarot Instructional Manual, it might flash a little, is basically, there we go, is basically the Ouroboros symbol. And I was saying that I think that the wardrobe department is using the tarot cards to dress the characters literally in the Thoth deck. And it translates in other decks, it'll pick up. But I'm saying because of the colors and the consistency, it is leaning heavily on the Thoth deck, which is kind of a little more of a mature derivative of the tarot, because it's hailing back to the old relationship between that justice and the strength, which Crowley turned into lust and adjustment. But it is actually true to older patterning numerologically. So he was reforming or resetting back to an old way. And that's actually an initiation for a lot of people. For a long time, I used to say Crowley messed up the deck, and then I had to find the research that said, no, he was putting it back right. So yeah, I think that the dress department is using the tarot cards, but what is cool is the plot department, the people who are writing the dynamics of the relationships. I can't really, this one won't come through. It's harder to see.
Hold on. Listen. Are you done
Yeah,
with
yeah.
this frame? I mean, I can go back to it either way, but I can do the same thing with everything else. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I will. I'll pull the next image for it. But then I'll just say that I'm quite sure that this book I'm enjoying right now is called Rapid Story Development by Jeff Lyons, and it is how to use Enneagram story connection to become a master storyteller, and that is good for understanding what Hollywood, who is in bed with the MIC very deeply. It's good to get a grasp of what they expect to see as a response to their social engineering. But I want to redeem the Enneagram community very heavily, and I want to put an important line in the sand right here. I think that Hollywood wants us to respond to integration and disintegration as a manipulation tool, as an acceleration valve, using the Enneagram system to whatever process. But in the self-help communities of the Enneagram, they are making a strong case that I tend to agree that disintegration is necessary sometimes. And so we shouldn't really get hung up on the fact that the Enneagram is actually can be used to seed our decision making in a certain direction. You could say left or right, or forward or backwards, up or down. Either way, when we get in those dichotomous situations, their bias starts to show. But I think Hollywood wants us to respond to this social engineering using integration and disintegration. So don't let Enneagram communities pull that line in the sand out, because there's a difference between these self-help systems that you can do for yourself and going to the theater and letting somebody do it for you. And I'm kind of I'm on a soapbox a little bit about, you can do tarot cards for yourself. That's what for some people, that's your choice. But what happens when everybody's doing the same tarot reading in a movie? That's totally using the same tools in different ways. So I don't want people to look at Hollywood and be like, tarot cards are evil, and everybody in their house who has tarot cards is also evil. That line in the sand is so important in the military industrial complex, is sitting on the valve right there.
excellent. So I've been trying to frame this thing up over here, which is why you keep seeing my head do weird things, because I pulled up, I have it on the browser, and I pulled up the Fool card. Good, here we go. Because the Fool card here, I'm just going to have us covered up by it for a second, it's Loki, and it's definitely a hermaphrodite. It even has alligator Loki in the bottom of it.
Isn't that something? So I call this the Sobek on shoes. This is the subconscious.
Mm.
And it's also, I'll get you another graphic here in 1 second. There's way more to it, but tell me about what you know about alligator Loki, because that is so profound that it was on the Thoth deck from way back in, I think 46 is about when the Thoth deck hit the map.
Mm-hmm.
But for that to already have been seeded that far back, and now it's in Marvel, people think it's novel or new. Mm-hmm. It has such a long history.
Right. Well, in a subconscious kind of way, I named my iguana, which is the same as a quadrupedal reptile that likes water and is green and has a nasty bite. It just doesn't eat meat, and they're smaller, and they like trees and being in them. But the point is, it's the reptilian brain, and it's making you understand this nervous system connection that Loki has, that reptilian brain. This is why he turns into snakes and gives birth to snakes, and he can turn into a salmon and things like that. All these very high agility, twitchy things. He also can become a goat. Goats are associated with Loki, which is why he's got the horns. They're goat horns. when I, as a Thor incarnation, like I've been talking about this because, not that I'm anything special per se, but, with my phenotype as an Aries, I actually have these forehead protrusions. I've talked about them before. I told you about them. So like I actually have horn nubs on my forehead. So I understand this in funky ways I didn't know because my fat head was hiding the fact that I had horn nubs in my skull. That's the trip that is my life. Yeah. And there's a pattern of. It looks like it's like they're runes, but they have the zodiac signs for different signs and different planets. In this little clump over there, there's a blue thing coming out of a nipple, right? So with this, you get to basically look at concepts of both Sylvie and Loki. You're going to see involved in this, I think.
Big time. Yes, this is probably one of the most informative cards of the whole deck for me. This particular Fool card, one of my realizations I've shared with you before is that the Boötes constellation is in that negative shard off the thigh of the Fool card. You can take actually, you know what? I know you just moved into this image, but can you pull up the most recent in our personal telly that I sent you? It has the Fool card and a map. And this is so fun. Something I do on my channel is I get I'm practicing anamnesis all the time where I get this
Take this down for a minute.
I get a strong hunch that the art is saying something very profound. And there's no letters on these. I'm not reading things. I'm looking at art, and I'm getting incredible potential information. And when I pursue it, I am rewarded. And
which of these two am I looking at? Both of them? The last ones you sent me?
The one with the map.
Yeah. The one with the map. Got it. Hold on.
Yep. So on the Slick Dissident channel, the Boötes constellation is very confirming and obvious because when you superimpose Boötes, the constellation is framing the boot perfectly. It's literally like putting the boot on for him. So it's like his demonic spirit, his poet, his higher self, his void, is pulling up him by his bootstraps. Like the number of metaphors that I can pull out of the fact that the Boötes lines up with his boot is very fun. It's very fun. It's speaking on a language of the muses that so many people don't have the benefit of. Right. That Boötes void is there, but under the other arm, catty corner, like checker pattern, the other arm is a little tiny Ara Altair constellation. And it was just a sneaking suspicion, so I had to go and look at other Dionysian art. And sure enough, for hundreds of years, Dionysian artists have been using negative space in their imagery to encode constellations in the negative space. And now I'm completely initiated. I realize the Boötes void is a negative space. It's a great void. And this to have the Ara Altair constellation under his armpit is encoding the influence. So I look at influence, and it means, for one, it's olfactory. I smell something is up. It's in his armpit. I can smell he's under the influence of drugs. He's an influencer. There are stars in his bag of drugs. The stars influence us. So him being under the influence, all these intoxicants are telling me that I am drunk on some kind of level of truth. And I need to follow my nose with this. So many Dionysian pieces of art through history have encoded the constellations in negative space. And now we got a mandible effect. We got to go back and chew everything we thought we ate and reassess what it really meant. Okay, so today I find in Plato's Symposium, Book 3, heads up, y'all, I think 2023 was Plato's Symposium, Plato's Republic, Book 3. I think 2024 is going to be Plato's Republic, Book 4. I'm about to flush that out on my channel, but I'm going to try to read this as best I can. In book 3, they literally are talking about intoxicants and sobriety. Now, keep in mind, the Ring of Sofas, the sovereigns, the Ring of Sofas from the symposium, they were philosophers, but they were also fully sobers. They were fully sobers. They made a vow not to drink for the rest of the symposium. And notice my playfulness with words here. I'm taking these liberties, but I tell you, these liberties, imbibing in these liberties, give great reward. So I find in book 3, they are literally talking about from intoxication. We said that they must abstain, for a guardian is surely the last person in the world to whom it is allowable to get drunk and not know where he is. This is a huge pin in the conspiracy corkboard of everybody, because these constellations are also the shapes that are handed to us for the map of the realm. And the Aura Altair constellation is up in the shape of America. America, you take only every third letter, and it's ARA. That is the astronomical sign for Aura Altair. And what is our slogan, national slogan for a couple of years there? With change, change, change. Aura Altair means change. This word change is, it's becoming a bit of like it's being drilled into us. I'm just going to say it that way, and that's a total understatement. The word change is almost, I think of it as a command order. You know, we had Barack Obama. We have Joe Biden. So subliminally, they're telling us to obey and to change and seeding us with all kinds of commands. And we're being guided to be very receptive, but not on our watch, right? Okay. But for this line to involve intoxication and not knowing the realm, there's a receipt here. You got to find it yourself. But Thomas Hobbes literally boasts about people can't even get along in the world because they don't even have a map of where they are. And so in a strange way, I'm starting to see that, believing that the map pertains to anything might be a huge Mandela effect also that needs double masticated. Some people are already there where they're like, I don't even trust these maps. But what's fascinating on the double mastication of the information, chewing it up twice, is the map of the planet actually a bunch of constellations? Or maybe, what if America, just the Americas, are constellations?
No, they're actually all constellations. Manly P. Hall, in one of his lectures or books or whatnot, talks about this. The original way various nations were laid out is that they each had a constellation that dictated their size and shape. Ursa Major belonged to the Slavic tribes.
Damn.
Right?
Damn.
You know,
there's Sylvie right there. There goes Sylvie with the hail sign from Sylvie. That's pretty awesome. That's cool to know. One more thing on this graphic, I'll just kind of throw this out. That Sobek on shoes, the alligator at the bottom, that is Drake's Passage. And Drake's Passage is said to control the climate of the world, the bathymetry. The bathymetry is a new and fascinating word. It's heavily loaded, but it's a choke point. Now look at the choke. This is I think they call it an Italian necktie when you put the ball sack, you cut their ball sack and put it around their neck as an Italian necktie. And also there's a hook, a cane pulling him at the neck. So Drake's Passage is called the choke point, and this character is getting choked in multiple ways.
Right.
Yeah, Drake's Passage is fascinating, and also Argentina. Oh, okay, I'll just put this in the ether. So this card is old Loki. When he goes into the Great Beyond and he finds other Lokis hanging out there, the old Loki is dressed up the most in this motif, expressing it with the most obnoxious, direct, no filters. And of course he has Gator Loki, so they go hand in hand with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But in that episode, it's like he's going into his subconscious, but they sit around in the bunker and they have a symposium, and they start talking. And Loki stands up and he starts describing the perfect woman as Sylvie, right? And all the guys are like, "Yeah, right, perfect woman." Well, and then an intruder comes in the room, interloper. That's Alcibiades crashing into the symposium. And what is really crazy, we did this on the Interverse, is that if you look at paintings of the symposium in the background, out the window, you can actually see Goliath is out the window in the symposium paintings that far back. There's these crazy shadows, and it's in multiple paintings. Some are more obvious than others, but there's a looming storm on the horizon out the window in all of the symposium pictures, which is true to the subconscious scene of Loki. And that was a profound weave that we did a long time ago. But I'll leave this with the Sibyls of the handoff of the Sibyls. The oracles of Greece became the Sibyls of Rome, and in their stories, they used to say that after a great plague, the cure for the city was to build like a nativity scene of the gods in a special order, sharing special drinks and beverages, so that like Neptune and Athena would finally be sitting down making peace with each other, and the exchange of gifts on the table in front of them are symbolic of, from now on, we're not going to let the rhetoricians and the doctors get in each other's way. These muses are actually industrial egregores. And so they would rearrange the egregores in a fake nativity dinner for the public to just walk through and see. And just by the public taking in the art of a rearranged pantheon with little symbols and trinkets and gifts on the table, it's rearranging the psyche of the people, and therefore the plague will never return. And I think they've been doing that in Hollywood in fun ways, where they rearrange our associations with these characters and bring in a female Loki, and maybe now he's got a little tiny sword that's soft and gold.
And we know this trope from one of the great classics, Dark City, which was very much put everybody to sleep, inject them with something, meanwhile change everything around, and then they wake up, and it's like, yeah. And that's what 2022 felt like. Felt like 2020, 2021 was just this giant time where, like, the what are they? They call the visitors or whatever? The vampires, right? You know, they did their thing, and they tuned the world, and then we showed up, and it's just like, they can tune! And we just don't understand how we won yet. That's what it feels like. You mentioned Goliath. So this is a great place for me to jump in and talk about Goliath for a second. Oh, and another thing, as we've been talking about Loki here, there's another thing that I got to underscore. I bring it up all the time on this channel. In context to this conversation is a big trope that I see with my path as a pagan is that people like to play with, you know, the sympathy for the devil thing all the time in our culture and whatever, especially if you're an outsider. And pagans, like, you know, I'm sure there were some pagans that made this film. You know, Dr. Jackson Crawford's not a fucking pagan. You know, I'm sorry. He's a college professor who teaches paganism, and he doesn't want to do anything weird with his life. But anyway, so this is it's you're putting Loki in a place that actually, this is really more of Odin's thing, right? Just because it gets to a point where it forces Loki to evolve into someone who has to come up with a certain kind of way of a plan of action, right? Right, and this is just something that you have to work up to, as opposed to Odin, who is like that, but he is also a trickster, right? So sometimes we like to go with the trickster who isn't the god and go with the trickster spirit, which is a different thing. Hold on a second. I've lost the Gabe. Hold on. I'm sitting here, I'm ranting, I'm not looking at the screen, like I hit a flow state for a second. Ha! Oh, I gotta get. There we go. Stand by, folks. Oh, admit. There we go. Working on it. That should have worked.
Okay. Thank you, buddy. Sorry about that.
No worries. No worries. Okay. I was going on my Odin spiel. Did you catch everything? So you already know the Odin spiel. I told you this was a part of it, right? So anyway, because the way the series ends, it's like you don't actually want Loki there. Although, and there's a whole complicated thing that comes from my side of this angle, and isn't just the traditional paganism, but understanding that there are dark forces that have done things like corrupt the language and corrupt. This is why I try to look at the Bronze Age, because I'm trying to go pre-Bronze Age. On top of that, because I'm going back to the purity of source as best that I can. And so, long story short, is that Odin as the trickster, you could even say it's a young Odin, right? This probably more is correspondent to the circumstances by which Odin goes to get himself hung on the tree. Because, that's the way that you see the outcome go, right? And just like Odin, he's a throne-hungry guy, right? But the thing is that, yes, Odin is throne-hungry. Loki really, really isn't throne-hungry. He just will break stuff that he doesn't like. I don't like that. I think it's wrong. It's broken now, right? And when he says wrong, it's not like a personal whim thing, right? Because he is connected to the time stream that way. That is true. He's more this thing that runs around in like the circuitry of your brain, and looking to trip you up, or to be so astonished as to how wise you are to even drop a gift or two. But you're going to get into a lot of trouble if you don't realize that there's been a lot of bullshit that has happened to the perception of this entity as an excuse to get coincided with a lot of more infernal forces that are not part of the normal play of adversaries, the normal play of light and dark, the normal play of good and evil, right? I'm not trying to turn into some sort of Norse preacher. I don't think such a fucking thing should exist. But as one who has been doing this thing for a while and looking at the different ways that people have their relationship with Loki and the way I've had my relationship with Loki, there's a monstrous side that will happen because it's a spirit. It's nothing you do is going to make it suck any less, and nothing you do is going to, it's a spirit. It's not a god, right? And you can respect a spirit. I do it. I've given offerings to Surt because of the purpose of Surt and knowing how that works. But anyway, so I just wanted to underscore all that stuff. And then we were talking about Goliath. You brought up Goliath, and we were talking on the phone before the show about this one, where I brought up several significances about Goliath. One of which is he's basically a representative. He's almost like Garm and Fenrir, kind of in the same character almost, right? Because on one hand, he's this guardian in the underworld, and he protects he who remains as if it was goddess Hel herself behind it. But that's Garm. That's not Fenrir. Fenrir,
Totally.
Yeah, Fenrir is Garm is within the natural order of things. Fenrir is the very spirit of anti-life. It's this monstrous thing, but it's got this deep association with the primal wolf spirit, which I think this is in the Latin tongue, but it's the I believe it's the lupus intus, right? And so that's really the great wolf of veneration. And then there's Vandagander, who is the wolf of the river Van, and is almost a Vanir equivalent of Fenrir. There's not too many tales about Vandagander, but Vandagander is not the same thing as Lupus Intus. But the river Van does flow from its mouth. So it is important to the structure of the realm. So Eliath is like Fenrir. It's actually a little bit like Nidhogg as well. But another thing that it is kind of like in a funny way, which makes sense because it's part of the Norse creation myth, is that it's also an angry cloud. There is one Jotun who is specifically the Jotun of angry clouds. And that is the brains of Ymir. When the world was destroyed, Ymir's brains were thrown into the sky. And that's where all the angry clouds come from. In other words, clouds of high electrical activity. And I always loved that because it told me that without apparently having the ability to harness electricity, we knew that there was electricity going on in the brain. We somehow just intuitively knew it. Right? So Eliath is also kind of like Ymir, the screamer, like a spirit of war. Right? And it's sitting here devouring everything at the edge of the latent space of time and reality.
Totally. Yeah, man, that corresponds so strong with my read on it. There are 3 canines in the fall. There are more dogs than people think around the zodiac, actually. There's Canis venatici is an underappreciated derivative of the Canis major and minor. But what's unique about venatici, it's in the fall, not in the spring like the major and minor. It's kind of near Virgo and Libra. But Canis venatici, those dogs are on chains, and they're on leashes, and they're literally running away from, as though terrified of, the wolf that is just a couple degrees away from that, is the Lupus constellation. So there are 3 dogs within 30 degrees of each other. I think we're looking pretty heavily at a strong Cerberus connection. Now, I could...
Okay.
Yeah. I could weave Canis Major and Minor into Cerberus pretty easily because there's a Hades star over there.
Okay.
So that could be done, but it doesn't really fit in the spring because we're going into the fall. I think Cerberus is best articulated by Lupus and Canis venatici, right there where the scales of determination. Now, and Lupus is holding the scales like Anubis, so there's strong Saturnian implication there too.
I mentioned in the live stream on Interverse last night when you were talking about stuff. I said like the Fool card. Like I think the Fool card is Orion, which is also Osiris, because the posture of Orion and the posture of the Rider-Waite Smith Fool are kind of the same with the way that it's angled as such. And what is at the feet of Orion? Canis Major, thus the dog. And I believe if you basically extract more context around Orion, a number of more things will make sense in that journey of the tarot, and this is why people can't help but pick up on the Egyptian mythos that runs through it all.
Yeah. I got a little treasure to hand over to you.
Yeah.
You're totally right that the Fool and the Orion. But what's cool, this is like a gift that keeps giving for me, is I always assume I'm almost right, and I'm maybe if I tweaked something, it would be better. So sure enough, if you flip the Fool card and put it on Orion upside down, counterintuitively, the dog becomes Canis Minor, and the line of his stick that's carrying his bag, it lines up with the belt perfectly, and all of a sudden you're realizing, wow, it's even better when you flip it upside down. And then guess what happened? The underdog won the race. The underdog won the race. So this sneaking suspicion you had all along that it wasn't a perfect fit, you follow that intuition, you double masticate it, you turn it upside down, and then boom, it's a perfect fit when you flip the fool upside down onto Orion. And then the dog is the underdog, which is underfoot, it's so gratifying. But I think, check this out, Zerilath, you'll dig this. I love that you call it the Rider-Waite-Smith, dude. I want to big up you for like bringing the full name to it, because I dropped the Smith off the end. My bad. You picked up what I was leaving out, because what is in the hand of he who remains when his big reveal is the Smith-Munt Modernization Act that he devours over time until poof, it's gone. The Rider-Waite-Smith deck has been devoured, has been expended. And now they're making this shit up as they go. Smith-Munt Remodernization Act is in full effect. So the Granny Smith in the hand of he who remains is a huge trigger and initiation. And I think it's telling us that, and also I think one of the bigwigs just handed over his empire to a guy named Smith. It's either Soros or Churchill or one of those big heads. They handed an entire empire over to somebody with the name Smith. So Agent Smith was seated a long time ago with the Smith Modernization Act. It was pretty hardcore shit. But let's weave on this Fenrir is the wolf thing. Like, I just want to put this on the table for you. Something that I find confounding is when I discovered that NATO doesn't go by the word NATO in their home over on their side of the water. It's reflective. They call themselves OTAN.
Yep.
And their ultimate slogan is a mind unfettered by deliberation, which what I hear between the lines of that is we are low-jacking your self-determination. We are low-jacking your self-determination. And their symbol is the compass. So they're trying to jack your compass, your sense of compassion. And now I want to throw this on the table at you, Zerilath. Loki does not get put in the throne of the North in the end. Everybody wants to say, yeah, he's in Yggdrasil, he's up north. I'm just saying, that can be gratifying and everybody can say, but they threw him in the south. They put him in a constellation that can't be seen from the North motherland. They sent him out and they gave him a nativity, a final, whatever, a closing conclusion. When he sits in his throne at the very end, that constellation can't be seen from the motherland of the Norse. It's Indus constellation next to the Pavo constellation. And so everybody's going to be, I think that there's an intoxication to the self-deception of saying, yeah,
you're
he's
saying
that
the throne at the end in the show is correspondent to a certain constellation that can't be seen in the Northern Hemisphere?
Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
Okay,
so
okay.
the reason I'm saying this is because I think that Norse cosmology is being attacked on an incredibly sophisticated level. And so a lot of people are going to think that that's the tree of Yggdrasil or whatever. And maybe that's true. Maybe that's what the ultimate metaphor or secret behind it is like the Norse could see all the skies. They had maybe more territory than we thought.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Well,
I'm just saying,
like it's. I mean, technically, it isn't like Yggdrasil because there'd be an Yggdrasil that everything is within the sacred timeline, right? Because those realms all exist on the same timeline, right? Stuff happening in Asgard and Earth and Midgard and whatnot. That's all happening, and that's all in one universe. That's not even multiverse, right? And then a different timeline has its own entire equivalency of it, which is why there's so many Lokis, right? Because most Lokis are pretty good at avoiding getting purged.
Nice. You know what? Name the two dogs. Is it Garm and Fenrir?
Okay, yeah, I was talking about there's Garm who's the Hellhound. It's a Cerberus equivalent. It only has one head, but that's the underworld dog. And then we got Fenrir. Then we've got Vandagander, Vandagandr.
Wow, that is. I think that's probably relates to the Fjordgord or Fjordjord. Is that like a one who is sent ahead? Or is he in the lead?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean that would make sense, like the wolf scout, the lead wolf kind of thing.
Right.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm thinking he would be Lupus, just because of that alpha lead head implication of the Fjordjorn. And then Garm and Fenrir, buddy, check this out. Put Fenrir in the front, and it becomes Fenrirgarm, which you drop the F, and it becomes Inrirgarm.
Which is Enneagram, right?
Thank you so kindly. Thank you so kindly. And it's not just any. In the F that we dropped, the F that came off the front is a 6, a very significant 6, a Fehu 6, which is a mathematic Pythagorean 1, but that's a Fehu 6. This is a personality type. If PK is out there and my buddy Polymath, we got a big weave on the 6s are loyalists, and they are speaking dog tongue, and they sit when they're told to sit. So there's a thing about dog kings where basically, here's an example. You think the president is calling shit? The end priest or den priest is an anagram for president. Guess what? There's 20-some levels of security clearance above him, and now what you thought was a president is just a dog king. And so dog speech and dog tongue is for the civil, for the Spartans, for the warrior class, and those who are obedient. And I think they've been encoding language for certain mindsets that we call. Yeah, we call them names around here, but yeah, that's an old program. But I just want to say that 6 is an indication of loyalists. So 6 in rear Garm is a punch in the face for me. It's totally the loyalist because those dogs are on leashes. Canis Venatici is on a leash, and Canis Venatici is an anagram for Vatican science. Vatican science made dog kings possible.
Okay. Right. And of course, Fenrir is understood to be on this, quote, delicate leash. Right? What does that delicate leash mean? Is that the sacred timeline is a ring, right? Is that theoretically the leash? Because literally all of that, it's just like the latent space is behind him. It's practically in him.
Yeah. Damn. Dude, we are on it.
Right. It's kind of like a living black hole, because all it's interested in doing is eating anything that's edible.
I want to throw down on leash, man. Like Jet Li, the movie Unleashed comes to mind. A badass who is also crazy, Dog King. So it's like basically they have laconic commands seeded in our language to spark them off into revolution. One example is 543210. 543210. If we T minus, we take the T out of, you switch the V of 5, you make it into a T. You don't really need to. It works anyway. But if you T minus 543210, it becomes fight for threat to one's hero. And they do that ritual all the time. When I was a kid, we used to 543210 for all competitions. But the threat to one's hero is actually an attempt at your philgia, at your projection, at your higher self, at your daemonic twin. All of these things are triggering your fragility. And so fight for a threat to your projected fragility. That is who your hero is. And it's in our language all along.
And you know what? I ain't even mad about that because that actually is a positive thing. It's being used against you, on the subconscious level because that's the magic, right? But you see, like I know who my hero is, right, and that's my heart. right? So
That's
all
what's
it's saying is at 0, your heart's in the game. That's all that means.
Yeah, man. The sixth position in the symposium was an empty seat. And now this I have called, and it was called an empty seat explicitly 3 times. It's not a stretch. It's literally, there is nobody between Agathon and myself. Socrates says this. It's an empty seat. I'm calling this sixth position the Chapel Perilous. And it is the pilot seat of the Millenniagram Falcon. But I call it the Chapel Perilous, and it is a promised empty throne. I think, Zerilath, I think number 6 is an invitation to the valiant. And if you die in the Valkyrie's care to honor you, and you go through the filtration system and his wife doesn't want you, then you might have a chance to sit in seat number 6 at the symposium if you die valiantly. And that is the loyalist. And in a strange way, my friend, I have a real strong beef with this number 6 in my worldview. I got strong beef with it because I haven't found something worthy of loyalty. So for me, of course, it's an empty seat. I think a lot of people are feeling this vibe. But if you harness that and magnify it by multiple generations, this empty seat becomes a prophecy, a prophesized one, a chosen one, a savior, a salvator. Somebody's going to come and be brave where all your ancestors weren't. And then you'll jump on board and start marching.
So can you only find loyalty in 6, or is it what do you think needs to happen? What do you think needs to happen with 6 or with loyalty? What fixes that?
Oh, what an awesome question, man. Well, so many people get married. They fix the 6 by getting married. That's where their loyalty goes. And so a lot of people are looking at me like, I don't know what you're talking about. I got plenty of loyalty, motherfucker. Well, I'm single, so some of my projection might be coming through. All y'all married fellas, ease back. But
it's all right. We can do the bachelor's rant. That'll wetten the pussies right up, won't it? Anyway,
yeah, because number 6 is the lover's card, right? And it's a wedding. It's a wedding scene, but it's also the devil card. Number 15 becomes the 6. So we have both a marriage and a divorce implicated in this prophesized chosen one. So who are you going to have your loyalties to? And if that gets shook, what's going to fill that void right away? So one thing I've discovered, I think that Ignatius Loyola is public disclosure for the fact that UniverCIT, university, has captured loyalty and industrialized it. And a lot of people's identity gets caught up in their education. So some people are married to their education or their academic professional persona, and so that fills their number 6 spot. It gives them a loyalty or a whatever to drive them forward. So a lot of people that can be fixed pretty easily in this wedding vow, this receptivity of a commitment to look into somebody's eyes and never lie. That's a real strong, brave fix for the 6.
I got the lovers here for you.
Nice. Yes, the one thing I've learned is there is one of the rotes, one of the little cherubs, a sub-Cupid that is one of our desires in our subconscious level. I think a lot of times when we say cube, we should be thinking about the incubi. That is a more Norse, northern perspective on these cherub babies that are different ages and different significance in different cultures. But in the Greek, they had hair on their face. They weren't babies. They were like just at that rite of passage, mature enough to handle some shit. And the one whose name is Logos. His name is the hardest name to say. Hermeaoes. It's like 3 or 4 vowels in a row. It's the hardest one to say, which is funny because his name means a wedding vow. Right. And a wedding vow, his name has a lot of vowels in it that are hard to say. And so a wedding vow is hard to say, you know? So there's like staring this word down and trying to appease it the way it wants to be heard and pronounced. So there is actually one desire whose name is Bridal Hymn.
Wow,
And
dude, look at this. Look, I'm seeing this right now, and I think I just figured it out. Okay, I just figured out this card. This is Mobius, the wizard in the background. His cloak wraps around his arms like a Mobius strip.
Oh, you badass.
Yeah, this is Mobius trying to bring Loki and Sylvie together to save the multiverse.
Wow, I had Mobius as a 7 Epicure, but you know what? Putting him as a loyalist, you know what? Whoa.
Yeah. Think more in terms of the scene than the character, and realizing what character in the scene is, like, what scene is being played out. That's how I figured out the strength card, which like, just to get back to Eliath real quick, I blew your mind on this one. So the strength card, that is Sylvie when she successfully enchants Eliath and brings Eliath to submission to open up its jaws for her, and thus revealing the tower at the end of time. Boom.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So that's your strength card.
You just opened up a bunch of doors. This is so great. Okay, I'm going to say, you're so right. This Lover's card and the Devil's card, both number 6s, I think it is specifically Mobius in his initiation scene when he's in the church and he meets the kid with the bubble gum. That scene was his first scene. So when he's initiated, we see him in his 6th persona. Later, he becomes a 7 once he starts his strange quirks back at work come into play. He becomes a 7. But I think in the field, he's a 6. Dude, that's so profound, what that means with the Enneagram. That's great. But then I want to say this, too, with Eliath, going back to Eliath and Sylvie going through her process to become that strength, which is season 2. It's not until the end of season 1 that she transforms into that strength. But you know what's cool is that moment when they're facing down Eliath, Loki has to run off to the side and wiggle around his weak-ass little tiny golden sword that's all silly. How do you appease Cerberus and Hades? Honey-infused breads. His soft little sword he's wiggling around is literally the exact recipe for the treat that you would entice Cerberus with. His wiggling that sword is what you do to get past the dog. They did a Cerberus ritual, and it was perfect. I forget that. I think it's a barley bread steeped in honey. And there's a beehive constellation just 30 degrees over that way. It's pretty beautiful. And then for her to go and become the strength card after that, can you maybe pull up? Let me think. So this was a huge realization on the show last night with Chance. Can you pull up the most recent one?
The most recent Interverse episode?
No, from Telegram, the most recent picture that I sent to you.
Oh, yeah.
This is a scattered hot mess. This is how Slick Dissident does his process of collecting thoughts and shares it on the world in hopes they can all maintain a sense of reality afterwards. Last night, I was totally holding on to what you said, Zerilath, about how Sylvie becomes the strength, which in Thoth is the lust card. Eventually, because she conquers all that desire, I realized that Loki goes through the same symmetrically on the Enneagram. The change that she experiences is mirrored perfectly by Loki. So what you said about Sylvie was reflected in my mind onto Loki, and I saw the same dynamic happen. And both of them go from, like, you can see my hands are the pyramid. In the middle of the Enneagram, the pinnacle of my fingers is the 9, and then on one wing is the 3, and on the other wing is the 6. So Loki is the 9-3, thelemic 93.
Okay.
And Sylvie is the 9-6, 69, brah, right? And when we jump from holding both positions, both the 9 and the 6-3 wings, so the 3-6-9 is held up by the both of them. And then when they go into season 2, they both snap transfer, and she becomes the strength card. He becomes the magi card. And because and it's like he goes through a promotion, and you'll notice he's got a new collar, he's got a new look, his demeanor is different.
Yeah,
And
he's
and he
he's
starts.
earned the trust of the Norns.
Yes. And what is really cool that you gifted me to realize, buddy, is that on the old deck, both of those characters have crowns of the Lemniscate on top of their head. The strength card, that Vestal Virgin soothing the beast, has a Lemniscate, and the magician card also wears the same crown. And so, in a really cool way, they're crowning. We'll maybe call it their crowning. But they went into locations on my Enneagram that are between the realms. I call these the thrones. In the Enneagram community, they call them the Hornavian groups. But the Hornavian groups is an anagram for throne Ophanum. Ophanum means throne. And so these are the thrones of the angels holding the three dividing lines in the Enneagram. Michael is holding the Hornavian group that is the 783. That is the Schumann resonance of the earth. Michael is also correspondent with Serter because he's the most assertive. And this 7.83 spear holding assertiveness that is the Schumann resonance of the earth is so profound. And it helps map personalities very easily. And then and that is Sylvie is holding that with the lust card or the strength card that you're talking about. And then Loki becomes the Magi card that is holding another Hornavian group, is another throne in the Enneagram system. It's the 126 group, and they are the most compliant. And I was only able to see that because you found her enthronement. I guess we could call it an enthronement. They go through like a promotion, and now they're wearing the Lemniscate as twins of each other in a really cool way.
Excellent. Yeah. Absolutely.
If you you have it. I'm sorry, I didn't know you had the graphic up. I'm sorry, I need to stay on track here. So
I was waiting for you to like start referring to it.
I'm sorry. So this graphic is all over the place. It is drawing on a great many myths and dynamics from the heavens. But I think I've actually isolated the moment where Loki changes costume and dons a new persona. And it's at the beginning of season 2 where he jumps over the balcony. Remember that? Where Mobius doesn't recognize him, but he still wants to arrest him. I don't know who you are, but I need to arrest you.
Right. Yeah.
That should never happen, by the way. Never let yourself get arrested by a person who doesn't clearly identify who you are because they're pretty much wearing a costume. Don't fall for that shit. All right. Yeah, they're fucking around with the arrest procedures. In what the public opinion of what an arrest procedure should entail, they have hammered that down in a dangerous way through the film. If you pay attention to everybody getting arrested, they're systematically eroding what it means to actually get arrested. So heads up, y'all. All right. So in that scene, he jumps over the cliff, he jumps over the balcony, and I think that's the moment. The loop. He's going through a loop. He's a renegade wolf. He's the outcast. Caput Gerrit lupinum is common law command. Let him wear the wolf's head. Let him don the wolf's head. It means make this person an outlaw to such a degree that if he breaks into your house, you got to lock him in and burn your own house down. And we expect you to do that. If you don't, you are with him. So this moment that he's the outcast and he jumps over the balcony, I think is when he changes his costume from the fall guy, from the hangman, and from the moon card. He's now going to become the Magus card, which is Achilles getting his hair pulled. And that hair pull in the conversation with Athena is him skitzing out all the time and time slipping, which slip is an anagram for pill. So pill time is when you go schizo, they need to give you your pills.
Yeah. That makes sense. And they open that episode with him being so completely out of sorts that it looks like he's just crazy. Seeing himself on a loop, but yet somehow oddly almost not acknowledging himself, even though he just saw the loop for the first time, right? All of that stuff.
Yeah, this This is aught problem is could have helped a lot of people in their argumentation against the gluttonous scientific optimism. Hume's guillotine would have helped a lot of conversations. Could have been a real tool in a lot of people's toolkit. So I suggest everybody get Hume's guillotine and, be ready for it to not for the fragility of Hume's guillotine someday too. But the is aught problem is the river Styx in the Enneagram.
Stinks?
It's the divide.
The river stinks.
The river stinks. It totally stinks.
Okay.
And so, that moment where he jumps over the balcony because his friends don't even recognize him. I see a lot of suggestive suicide throughout the arc of this series. We've determined that the stick, the Bernie stick that makes people disappear into a rainbow.
Yeah.
That is both a suggestion for suicide because Loki does stab himself eventually when he finds himself. He literally backstabs himself, but it's a nasal swab. There's a huge weave around the stabs are actually the nasal swabs because the Magi card is Carrie Mullisk. Carrie Magus. And that's a whole nother episode we could go into. But Carrie Mullis is a thelemic construct. The PCR test is a 3-step process that are basically the 3 different Magi cards.
Sure,
the first one,
you could even make arguments to things like what's her face? Like they never give her a name, like B9 or whatever.
B15.
B15, which that's 215, but it's also BA. What's the 5th letter of the alphabet?
E. Obey. She's obeying.
And also in the black community, she's a bae. Hey, bae, right?
Damn, bro.
Right.
Damn.
Right. So B15, like she's this enforcer with the stick. Like I want to say she's the Knight of Wands.
Oh, well, Knight of. Oh my gosh, brilliant! Wow, yeah, totally. That's cool. I have her as devil card because she gets incarcerated, or she gets locked in a cell. She is the cube, the black cube that the devil is perched on in the devil card in my read. But I love Knight of Swords. That would be like
I said, you got to read it. You got to read it by the scene because different characters are overlapping as they serve elements of the story. So yeah, you're right about all that kind of stuff.
That's cool. I love that. Yeah, and so we've determined that Sylvie's sword is and it has writing on it. It is specifically the Ace of Swords from the Thoth deck that has writing on it that reads Thelema. And it's the Thoth Ace of Swords is in a pineapple. It's puncturing a pineapple, and the pineapple is the symbol of the swingers, right? So it's swinging the Thelemic sword.
It's the Ace of Swords?
Ace of Swords. And there is the moment when she's sitting in the bar with Loki and they're having a drink and he takes her drink for her. The whole bar is in the motif of the inside of a pineapple. And there may be some SpongeBob in there somewhere with all that, but it's definitely implying the swingers bar. Because in the end, they start swinging. A bunch of cops come in and they all start swinging. And then he jumps out the window in a funny little there's something hidden in the subtext here because after he jumps out the window, his coat disappears. And so there's a shedding of a layer or a revelation of the method with that. We got into that one. I kind of forget that weave, but it was profound when we realized it. We were like, oh, we kind of cracked that code why his coat disappears, but you don't know why. It's just the next scene, it's gone. So somewhere in that shedding of that swinger scene, he goes through a costume change.
Yeah, I popped it up. Wait, which one goes to the costume change? I was finding the Ace of Swords for you.
Oh, nice. Yes, Loki does.
Oh, Loki does. Well, his entire all of his costumes when he is not in trouble with the TVA are manifestations. He dresses exactly the way he likes to dress. He comes up with his costume. He's climbing up that thing. That's just him saying, what is the costume that is appropriate for a king taking this throne? That is also me.
Yeah, man.
Right?
Yep. You know, I think I'm remembering it now. I remember what the weave was. So the jacket is your criminal record. Jacket is street slang for criminal record.
Right.
So,
right.
So if you get in an altercation with the cops and you go into the jail cell, it's a good opportunity to actually get disappeared. You will come off. You'll come off clean on the other side. So let's put McAfee on the table. Let's put Epstein on the table, and let's mention.
You become an asset.
Let's mention.
You become a Tim. You become a Tim Osmond.
Yeah, buddy. Yep. Lady Frida Harris's father was did facial surgeries. He was a plastic surgeon. He would have a list of very influential people who have secrets, who have shed their jacket, who have lost their criminal record, and are now running around on a more influential level.
Right.
And I'll say this: the art card is Lady Frida Harris. One of Friedrich Nietzsche's most enigmatic statements was a conversation between two of his personalities, and the line is, "What now? I'll tell you what now. Give me another mask. Give me another mask. Let's do this again." If you look at the art card of the Thoth deck, she has two heads. She has dilemma. She has two masks, comedy and tragedy mask. That is a self-portrait of Lady Frida Harris, whose father was giving people facial surgery. Lady Frida Harris was bad at making faces. Crowley took jabs at her about it. He even said, your inability to associate with faces is a sign of spiritual weakness. And so by putting masks on everybody for 2 years, they undercut our spiritual strength.
Yeah, they did for the compliant. They certainly did.
And then one more thing, I've just got to say this. I think that Schopenhauer and Goethe, who were accused of generating suicides because their writing was so dark and morose because it was pessimistic, that accusation stands, I think, as cover for the fact that I think there has always been a powerful industry of people who want to fake their death, and an entire network of witness protection program that has been a boondoggle on the black market, and facial surgeons would totally be a gatekeeper for that. So Lady Frida Harris's aversion to faces, her father being a facial surgeon, Crowley's line about give me another mask, I think there is a whole network of motherfuckers who can just flip the script and come out looking like somebody else, just like Face Off. And they're hiding behind accusations of suicide. It's like, it's actually advertising. It's like, suicide, the government-assisted suicide program. Well, guess what? You get in that program, and you come out the other side, you might be somebody else, and everybody thinks you're dead. That's how the Nobel Peace Prize started.
Okay. So I think let's do a little bit of the breakdown of the Ace of Swords and its significance to the Loki show, so we can tie it into the significance to the actual quantum mechanics that we're dealing with in real life. And then after we've talked about this for a hot minute, I want to queue up an intermission, and then we'll get to a handful more important matters. All right, so
yeah, buddy,
go right ahead. I'm also going to okay, good. It went. Yeah, go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you got on the ace.
Yes, so this is Sylvie's sword in particular. It is also the exact sword that is on the adjustment card, which is the card that Crowley actually brought back numerologically to the old ways, but changed its name in the process. The adjustment card I see as Jean-Jacques Rousseau and all the moral tarantulas in a fascinating way, but it's also the Overton window, which became an Overton guillotine in 2020. The Overton window is a guillotine now. But this sword is in the hands of the adjustment character. It's the exact same sword that's turned down in the Thoth deck's adjustment that would have been Justice card, by the way. and Rider-Waite-Smith would have been the Justice card. I have to be careful because you got to tiptoe a little. All right. But this card, you can see how it's a pineapple, right? Does the pineapple stand out pretty obvious to you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And now I see it.
Yep. Okay. So the swinger pineapple symbol, that's kind of funny, very silly. But there's a lot more in there because, for one, anybody who knows about alternate chronology will understand that Pompeii is revealed to be impossible to have gone under Vesuvius in the time frame they tell us, and the fruit of that knowledge is proven out because of the pineapples that were in the murals. But not just that, there's a linguistical tie from the word pineapple and the word Pompeii. Pom means apple, pay means pie. Pie, apple, Pompeii, pie, apple. It's fucking pineapple. Pompeii is named fucking pineapple. And that's the big secret of it, is that some people really do know the chronology of the realm.
And the pay is also the pyramid too. Fire in the middle. Pyramid.
Nice, yes. And so sacred events, knowing the timeline, gives people access to rational proportions so that they can actually hit notes and chords on a measure. So if you know when Pompeii happened, you know the time of year, you should echo that on exactly what numerological sequence, so you can echo it again, and eventually you're playing a song over 300 years. Yeah. So now, also, this pineapple revelation came to me on the Weaving Spiders on the exact same night that Martha Stewart launched a poke campaign where she does a ritual in her kitchen, sharpening a sword and then slicing a pineapple and making really dark, nefarious, family severing comments to sell the poke. And guess what happened the same day that they launched that commercial? Was the day that it was a 1-year anniversary of the island of Tonga explosion. That was it was huge. It rippled around the world, and she did her commercial exactly a day later. This is the music of the timing of it all. Okay. So this is an explosion as well. Can you see it as a mushroom cloud or some sort of conflagration on the horizon? Can you see that too?
Yeah. I both saw it in your explanation. Then I looked at the card, assuming you also meant, does that look like? Yeah, I see it.
And the next day, after Martha Stewart launched the pineapple Pfizer thing,
in fact, the hilt of the sword with the two crescent moons and the two spheres there, that could be a implication of something involving the splitting of the atom.
Nice. Yeah, I totally dig it. Well, the next day after the pineapple Martha Stewart spell, there was a mysterious explosion in the Ukraine from a device that is unknowable. They basically ran headlines that said that a rod of God had struck in the Ukraine, but we don't know what it is, and it's all plausibly deniable.
This was just recently?
This was about a year ago, and it was the same day that the Tonga event happened, a year before Martha Stewart, and the day after Martha Stewart was this rod of God drops in Ukraine. Okay. What color is the Ukraine flag?
It's yellow and blue.
It's the color of this card right here. A rod of God dropped in the Ukraine the day after Martha Stewart chops the pineapple on the same anniversary of the Tonga event.
Okay, interesting. So
these measures, they're setting a base measure. That's a base measure. Yeah. And they can ride that through our DNA throughout time.
What's the significance? It's like an emerald green, the color of this.
What a great question. Well, okay, I think it goes to the primary portrait of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who Crowley called him a moral tarantula. If you look close at the adjustment card, it is an extreme close-up of a tarantula's face. that character is Jean-Jacques Rousseau, whose opening line to one of his books was, "Every man is born free, but everywhere he goes, he is in chains." If you look at the adjustment card, it is Jean-Jacques Rousseau's spirit captured in an image of the moral tarantula. But his most famous art painting of Jean-Jacques Rousseau is in this color. The color green that you're asking about, I think, threads through Jean-Jacques Rousseau iconography, who is a Gnostic seed of communistic whatever, unpackaging. I'm not dissing Jean-Jacques Rousseau. I'm saying they will reanimate him when they need to because he's a godfather of communistic, heartfelt sentiment. There's your green.
Yep. Hold on a second. The one I clicked on was upside down. There we go.
Also, I think it's kind of funny that Jean-Jacques Rousseau, I'm saying that this guy is the spirit of green, but his name kind of implies red. Rousseau means red, and all things communist usually come packaged with fists of red. So I think it's just kind of funny that there's like a green to red, I don't know, implication to it. It's very, green, red, and white are Mithraic flags.
Right, okay. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, okay, so here it is. Yep, it's the same, yeah, it's the same, it looks like it's a longer sword. This is like, perhaps because this sword is also the long arm of the law, so it gets to be a longer version of the same sword.
Yeah, nice. And can you see the tarantula aspect of it's very subtle. It's not easy to see, but those orbs floating over it are actually how a tarantula's eyes are large orbed, and then there are smaller ones descending into the center. And then if you look at the mustache ridge of a tarantula, it actually lines up perfectly with the scales there. It's really, and the hairs, those metallic shoulder feathers, whatever those are.
Yeah.
Those are like the whiskers of the tarantula. And then there's a huge web in the backdrop of it all.
Right.
And moral tarantula was Friedrich Nietzsche's pejorative for most of the moral contract crowd.
Yeah.
Or the social contract crowd.
Yeah, it's both. It's got the capped diamond shape where the head is kind of goes into it, and then it's got the proper diamond shape with that as above, so below symmetry.
Right. Oh, I got.
Yeah. You know what this is? Oh shit! Look, this is the TVA itself as it sits in the latent space. Right, because you and Chance were talking about the TVA, the infinite plane, as above, so below. Look at this, complete with the rods that reach down and up and connect the top and the bottom of the TVA. Right,
yeah.
As this figure of justice. Yeah, no, the TVA as a system is the adjustment card.
Yeah, buddy. Yep.
Yeah.
And so Sylvie is the one who throws that sword to chop the head off of the top enthroned one.
Yeah.
When they go into that chamber. So she decapitates him with the exact sword that corresponds with it.
Yeah. Yeah. The top throne are you talking? Yeah, you're talking about the living tribunal when she chops off the head of the automaton.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the scene. And then this card. Yeah, that's all I got. Yeah, this is the automatic machine. It's mechanistic. That's what I think is important. Okay, yeah. So the Libra is the only machine on the Zodiac. So why is it a zoo of 10? Zoo 10. Why is it a zoo of 10? Well, because Aquarius is a man and Libra is a machine. They don't belong in the zoo, Darwin. So you take them out and there's only 10 left. And so the machine is a fascinating, important aspect of this because the problem with government, of course, is that it's overly automated. You know, we've leaned way too hard on the machine and something's got to give.
Right. It was Libra and what was the other one that you said?
Aquarius
and
is a man
because it's the man. Yeah, man and machine in particular, right? These two things that exist outside of nature, and then one doesn't exist unless man exists in the first place. basically, or or a man like mine, like let's just he said the aliens, the man didn't build that. It's just like yeah, man, aliens, like those with the divine spark of creativity.
Totally.
Yeah.
So can you pull up the most recent one that I sent to you? This is a kind of a master list of what I think the general habits of the characters. If I could take like the whole cast and try to throw them like throwing bones onto the Enneagram, this is a rough draft of what I think their strong habits are. And so we're talking about mechanizing, that man and machine are the exception to the 12. But then, a lot of people think that man has command over machine. But then I just love the thought experiment of, are we controlling these machines or are they controlling us? It's a worthy question, but also.
Actually, I was just thinking to myself. I said I wanted to run us into a little break because I want to take a moment to refill the water, take out some water, and that kind of thing. So this is about 4 minutes. I'm going to throw up the intermission screen that I run, and then we'll jump right in with this Enneagram chart. All right. I got to finish pulling it up. All right.
Let me finish my rant real quick on the man and machine.
Go ahead.
It's a worthy thought experiment. Does man control machine, or are the machines controlling you at some point? That Babylon mentality is when your possessions own you. And the letter S becomes very dangerous with that spell. S signifies possession. Okay. Same thought experiment. And do you control your thoughts and ideas? Because they were here before you, they'll be gone. They'll be here when you're gone. Or do thoughts and ideas control you? And that's the wizard's conundrum we're going to get into with the mechanistics of mind control as we power forward.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And getting into those linguistics in the sense of the magus, we're also going to get right into that Heidegger kick that I'm all about. All right, let's do it. So this is Morphogenesis by Scar Symmetry.
Hell yeah.
All right, welcome back. I'm munching on a pretzel. Anyway, we'll give Gabe a hot minute to get his camera back on and all that stuff. He might be taking a second. Hope you guys are having a kick-ass time with all of this madness that we're disclosing and trying to make a tremendous amount of sense to you in a way that matters applicably to your craft, your mental health, your all sorts of things. Because it's amazing how you can intersect all of these issues and teach such a profound lesson. All right, I am gonna have to juggle for a few minutes here, apparently, because I'm not seeing nothing yet. Let me see. Did he type a message? No, he didn't. Okay. Okay. So something that I'll say real quick about Loki, right, is that Loki is understood to be a spirit of hooks, traps, and snares. And his name is a knot. It means to be a knot. I think it means to be a lock as well. And that there's an akin relationship between the knot and the lock. And that's kind of how he handles this little throne in space-time that he picks up, right? Because he literally holds the strands of time in his hands, right? You know, because he's doing a major, one of the major things as a god that he can do, something that any variant of He Who Remains could never do. You know, he needs Kang needs technology in order to touch the time stream. Loki, because of his relationships to Dharma and Karma, he doesn't have to. But neither does Odin, because like I said, everything going on here is also an Odin fit. And it's the Odin fit that you're really going to want. But it is important to know how the Loki side of it works too. Because, you know, I think as a Marvel show is going, there is that sense of, you know, the redemption for the devil kind of situation under this kind of pagan drama where, you know, the fact that he is Odin's his adopted father means something important to him and all that stuff. And here he is technically sitting on a throne higher than his father or his brother, right? So there's a whole lot of the emotional side of it, which isn't actually there in the reality of Loki or even the reality of Odin. Because Loki's a spirit, and Odin as a deity, his happiness ebbs and flows with how much wisdom there is in the world. The less wisdom there is, the more of the war god Odin comes out.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, so we're back. We're sitting here. We've got an Enneagram to talk about, sir. Let's dive into it.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, I love how you're picking up on how, you know, there are exceptions to some of my assertions. Like when you pointed out the Ouroboros on that number 6 relating to, or no, when you pointed out the Mobius on this number 6 card, I had to retract my whatever, my overall, it goes a little bit against this lineup, but I love that because there are exceptions to what I'm stating here, of course. And I love that you picked up on that because you're so right. But generally, this is the neighborhood of the psychology. This is the general blueprint of the psychology of the team as a whole. And by putting them not in the station associated to the number itself, not putting them in any corner, I'm actually giving them a string that gives them actually two responsibilities. They got a left hand and a right hand, a yes or a no, a kinesiology pendulum choice for each character. And what's really cool about this little program is some of the letters of their names overlap at crucial points on the Enneagram. And this is just me being fun. This might not be. I'm not saying this was intentional, but some of them are fascinating. Like Mobius's I overlaps with Miss Minutes with her I. The E in Miss Minutes overlaps with He Who Remains name. There's the E overlap there, and He Who Remains has the word whore in his name, which is that's the astrological abbreviation for the hologium that you were talking about, his tower that he lives in. They call it HOR is the abbreviation for hologium. And so he's in the tower, and his name has the word whore hiding in it, which is
the tower is called the hologium?
In the astronomy, there's a tower, the clock tower, only in astronomy. The tower card, I think, is associated to this constellation, but I only moved into that connection. I'm new to that territory because I just found there's a clock tower constellation at the foot of Fornax. But anyway, fornication, so the whore and fornication and the time, you're getting Fornax and time, you're paying time for your fornication. So the whore of it all is quite apropos. This is where the whore of Babylon is prophesied in Revelation in the stars. This is literally where the whore of Babylon comes from. Okay. So having whore in his name is appropriate. You can see how I highlighted it. But his E overlaps with Miss Minutes, which they are entangled. Their destinies are entangled.
Yeah.
And the E of his name ties in with hers. I think this is really fun. And so another entanglement here.
Each line here is a polarity.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
Yep. Yes. And now, I guess I should say this also, that I think this is I put this together in season 1. So again, with the possibility that there could be exceptions or errors, or some of this might change over time. But look at the little hand gesture, the little two fingers of the Hierophant that I superimposed into the name of Ravona, who I think is both a number 5 Hierophant in the beginning. She's also playing for the world card strongly.
Yeah.
But her V in the name Ravona, she's borrowing an R from Ouroboros. The V of the Hierophant gives her the V in her name, but when you overlap B15, B15 onto Ravona, she's borrowing the same V. This is like a crossword puzzle Sudoku of the characters' names. And I realized by playing with these names that B15 is actually obsessed with being bona fide. She wants to be bona fide. And that's pretty cool that B15 is BONEFIVE, but V is 22 and D is 4. So the VM and the V are intermingled. This is a linchpin. This is a lynch vav. This is a lynch vav that I'm pulling out of the Enneagram that keeps the entire web entangled with the hand gesture of the Hierophant in the number 5 position, thinker, observer.
Yeah. And because you brought up Ravona over here, right? Renslayer, excuse me, right? We were talking about this before the show too. That I think that Renslayer is also Rinsler from Tron Legacy. Because they're basically the same effing thing. They are the enforcer of the real authority. And and they work right under the top authority as that enforcer. And Rinsler is Tron when he gets reprogrammed by the evil like program version of what's his face. But what was his character's name?
I don't know his name, but you're talking about Jeff Bridges?
Yeah, Jeff Bridges. That character had a funny little name, and I can't remember what it was.
I don't know, but Jeff Bridges' name is like a Pontifex Maximus nod and a wink to Pegasus and all things Tower card as well. The whole name, yeah. Jeff Bridges, is a stellar tableau in itself.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, let me actually do that. Let me pull up. I'll keep the I can pull the Enneagram up at any time, but I was gonna grab let's see, Tower. Let's see.
Yeah, finding a tower constellation at the foot of the Eridanus River is so informative because the Greeks needed flowing water for their water clocks. And so sometimes the anatomical interactivity of coterminal constellations are telling such a glorious story that it brings my mind back to stories I've consumed in the past for a revisit of an Epicurean delight.
Mm. There we go. Boom. All right. So, yeah, good. That works. All right, so here it is. You got it there?
A little bit of a lag. Just a sec. Up. Yeah, I'm spinning. Oh, there we go. Tower card. Yeah, buddy. Speaking of epicures.
Okay. All right. So, we have the direct nod to Yaldabaoth, as well as then we have the dove over here, and the dove. I'm trying to remember, man, what works opposite with that dove? Because the dove has all these different connotations, and then there's the oversimplified meaning that it gets because of the Bible. But yeah, what do you got on the Tower card?
Yeah, buddy. So this card, in the Enneagram, well, let's start with this. In God We Trust is an anagram for Tower, G, and Dust. G is a very occult letter, right? It is number 7, and it is also number 1-6, because 1 + 6 is 7. So number 7 is the Chariot, number 16 is the Tower. You put the Chariot and the Tower together, and you get what happened on 9/11. And so In God We Trust all along was collecting the Parthenia in anticipation for a grand spell. We know this. And it was foreshadowing 9/11, the conflagration of the Tower and the Chariot. But what's beautiful is Tower and Chariot, 7 and 7, are both in a position, a super significant position in the Enneagram. This is the enthusiast with the shadow of glutton. In the infernal realm, glutton's name is Beelzebub. And so this card, you can see there's a mouth on the bottom with stuff coming out of it. Mm-hmm. Well, very subtly, you may not have seen it yet, there is a mouth above that is eating the tower itself. And its eyeball is at the top. It's a side profile of a mouth eating the whole entire tower. And so the spirit of glutton is embodied in this card, but also the spirit of an epicure and being very careful with what you say. And so I see the biblical parable of it is not what goes in one's mouth, but rather what comes out that defileth the man. And so this is a Epicurean lesson to masticate on and think twice about what you thought you knew the first time you thought about it. Go back again later and think about it when you're older, because there are layers and layers. of things to chew on in that phrase.
So, I'm
and then
I'm trying to see the mouth. Are we talking about that this whole like kind of like fractal triangle pattern kind of coiling over it to the right?
Yes, it's as though the tower, like it was trying to feed the entire tower into its mouth, and people are jumping out as it's eating it.
Right.
So this tower, I think it is the tower of La Reine-le-Château. And when you mention Rinslayer's name, hailing back to a Tron character, I have found specifically this tower itself is at La Reine-le-Château. And so many mysteries center around the Arcadian myth in a major way, culturally. But do you see it now? Do you see the mouth eating the tower, consuming the whole thing?
I think I'm looking at it. I'm just not like seeing it because there's I almost want to say, what if it's not a mouth? What if what if it's the joke that it's going in backwards?
Oh, nice. That would make sense because there's the Yaldabaoth toxoplasmosis snake serpent. That is the ear. That's the ear of the profile of the person. They're facing towards the left in my read of it. But this is fun. I think you'll dig this. I have found that this is also the map of Venice. The waterway that cuts through Venice is the dividing line between the tower and this character that I'm trying to project into your mind, this profiled character eating the tower. The blackness that divides the mouth from the tower is the channels of Venice. And Venice is known as the city of epicures.
Okay.
And so number 7 personality type is an epicure with the shadow of glutton. Venice is the city of the epicures. And the map of Venice is all right here. And what else? And Venice was, they were the original mark of the beast because people could, Venice took over the world because they had a type of, mathematics, checks and receipts, checks and balances, exchequer technology that you didn't have to exchange actual coinage. You could just very quickly come into port, buy, sell, and trade. It would all be tallied up and paid later. This is the beginning of MasterCard. Venice is the source of MasterCard. In the spirit of Epicureanism, they took over the world because people could get in and out of port faster. And also, this is the location where Lex Mercatoria ate the sovereignty of kingship, of common law. Lex Mercatoria has eaten all of common law, and now we're all merchants. We're all out, lost at sea, because the kingship has been eaten by the merchants, and it was because of Venice that happened. It is so profound how much history is packed into this card. And then I don't want to associate it with anybody, but this is Chewbacca, and this is also the January 6th, 1 + 6 tower card.
Okay. I was looking at this, and I think I kind of zeroed in with the eye, the dove, and the demiurge over here. So I think that this is supposed to be Crowley saying that, like, you've got the Gnostic Trinity almost is what's taking down this card. And so I think that the eyeball is Miss Minutes. And the demiurge, I think, is Renslayer, and I think the dove is Mobius, right? Because these are the 3 characters who, they are the TVA. Like, all things, that are the TVA, the way that this series plays out, and the whole matter of season 2 as a whole, that's what we're looking at.
Well done, sir. Well done. I applaud you heavily. I want to point out that Crowley was said to have shaved teeth down to razor edge points. Probably bullshit, but that's part of the mythology. And this.
Well, I mean, Dee Snider, Twisted Sister, did it in the 80s, so that's not that crazy of an idea.
Right. And then, so this one has the pointy teeth, but then also the tower is a slick dissident anagram for our teeth. OWRTEETH.
Yeah,
Our teeth.
yeah. These could be like illusions, like these are like blades that are coming out of the mouth of this worm, right? And so that's the words, the swords being
And the doors.
being spoken, and then this gets into the whole Dasein thing I was talking about. One of the recent chapters that I've read in Heidegger is about the conflict between your world and the world at large, and how the immensity of everyone else makes your sense of Dasein in your private world so small that it surrenders to the Dasein of the world at large, because of all the things that you're basically programmed to keep as private things. Maybe they're a bit shameful, or you don't know how to deal with something, and that is not something that is, so therefore you're not prepared to defend anything related to it, so on and so forth, right? And so this causes you to not be capable of functioning the way you would be happy functioning in the real world, right? If I don't run around like in the way that I think I'm practically a monk of Thor, like just at work, like doing like just the heavy lifting and stuff, it's just like the job would be terrible for me, right? But my life operates like this living myth, and it puts me in a peak performance, and everybody really likes the work that I do, and it puts me in a position where my personal Dasein has a foundation to hold itself in the Dasein at large, the existential Dasein that we end up interacting with every time we leave our personal dominion.
I love how you said that. It's a myth that grants me access to my peak performance. That is such a fucking cool ass phrase. I'm going to write that down and I'm going to attribute it to you every time, buddy. That's a great one. God, that kind of sums up everything we're talking about, really. That's so fucking great. I want to talk about the Dasein. I have a good metaphor I think you'll enjoy. Imagine that all the mainstream academia has taught everybody to cover the world in Post-it notes. And everybody was just using whatever Post-it note came next to label things with words and mouth noise and signifiers. And eventually you look around the world and there's no actual objects. It's just covered in Post-it notes, right? This is a good metaphor for Heideggerian insights. Now, the Post-it notes were multicolored, and nobody told you that the colors meant shit. So you're just using any Post-it note to label the tree as a tree. But then Slick Dissonant comes along and he's like, wait a minute, tree and 3 share the same numbers. And look at your Post-it notes. Tree and 3 were the same colored Post-it note. You just didn't notice it. And so you start organizing the color scheme of all the Post-it notes of all the world, of all the layers of labels and signifiers on things that you thought were layering to identify things. And you realize there's a color scheme going on here. And the color scheme is cultural. It's cultural. And the fact that 3 and tree rhyme or are similar, you go and you look in other languages and you're like, wait, tree and 3 are the same in other languages. So if I was even writing these in other languages, the Post-it notes would have still been the same color. And this happens with a lot of words, not all of them. But one good one is traffic. Traffic is a good one. And this is kind of like what I'm doing here is I'm pointing out that cross-culturally these words were meant to be triggers. And even if the sounds are different in another context, the effect is the same on the body. And so hear me out for a second. In German, the word for traffic is intercourse. And now, it's a different word in German, a different bunch of sounds, but it's an easy mistake for beginners to accidentally say, hey, sorry, I'm late. I was having bad intercourse. This is a lesson from my German teacher, and everybody laughed. They're like, bad intercourse. Hate when that happens. And he's like, oh, wait, I didn't say traffic. So it's like a faux pas for him. Well, it's weird. It's not even remotely the same word. And over here in English, the same thing happens. traffic sounds like try and fuck. Try and fuck. And so the word, so things like child trafficking has even more profane faux pas in the front of it that we overlook actively. But the effect on our psychology is the same, and that's the color of all the Post-it notes that are the same emotional resonance that this faux pas has transferred over even into English, or the brother tongue of the German. And so this is kind of my thing with Heidegger, is I love the Post-it note layers of signifiers, and then using color as like a subtextual common space to reorder the Dasein of things in your mind. Do you like that metaphor at all?
Oh yeah. You know, but by the way, because we are live, you know, like I've just been so focused on making sure that we had nice, coherent flow state that I've not this entire time said hello to the chat. And, you know, we've got friends in there, and I've been neglecting that. I'm sorry, guys. I love you. Right? So I just want to say thank you for being here, polymathing, my Cherie Anilani. I just want to go through all the names here. Mr. E, my appreciation for your appearance. Word Nerd Poetry, Hot Air Balloon, thanks for popping in. And contributing. I'm glad you guys. I'm glad there's a great air of conversation that you guys are having, inspired by us. And you know, I like that there's side chat and you talking just what's up. PK, thank you. And I think that's most everybody. Oh wait, no, not really here is here.
Nice.
Freya and Hella Black, she's one of my mods. She's been listening to me for a long time, so she dropped in to say hello. Blue Kachina is here. What's up, Blue? She's another big fan. Jenny G, how's it going, Jenny? And anybody else? Okay, and that's everybody that participated in chat that has come through. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, big love.
All right. Are we still up on the tower? I feel like that we've rocked this tower pretty well. You got anything else on it?
Well, I will say this. While it is the Hylogium that is the clock tower, it's that stellar body. The cool lesson that I've learned is that, okay, I'm gonna explain how you hold on to mistakes because they are so rewarding when you look back and you've repaired them. For the longest time, I was calling Pegasus the tower, and I didn't really fully know why. I just knew it, like you know, that Kantian sense that Kant might have been wrong. Well, it turns out I sussed it out. It's because the Pegasus constellation stretches in the northern hemisphere where everybody can see it, and the Hylogium clock tower is hidden under the earth. It's under the whatever it's in the southern hemisphere, whatever that is to you. So they are correspondent to each other. While I can't actually see the tower itself, in the events of mythology, the Pegasus is a space holder for what is hidden underneath in the pregnant belly of the curvature. Underneath that is the clock tower, and I was reading it through Pegasus all the time, because in mythology they were constantly going through that part of the sky and regaling aspects of what I know to be the clock tower. So I was associating Pegasus with the tower, and it wasn't until it occurred to me that that there is what we see up north, and then there's something else happening just off the screen that is the subliminal. And so that mistake is still rewarding me. So while I have said in the past that Pegasus is the tower, it is because the tower can't be seen from certain parts of the sky. So therefore, and then another thing, through John McHugh, we've decided that the Pegasus represents Genesis story, Adam and Eve in the garden, that Pegasus Square is also the official stellar tableau. So anything and everything that has to do with all written records, like the library piling up so that everything is accumulated, that's actually signified by Pegasus Square. That is like the contract asterism. Anything written and contractual and binding is signified by the Pegasus Square, and also stored like a warehouse in Hylogium, the tower where you would be putting all of the library, building up the Tower of Babel. So there's a strange. It's hard to really convey in words, but I just got to say it. I have to say it wrongly so that it can be understood correctly. I have to be hubristic and say Pegasus is the tower, even though they're two separate constellations. It's because one is hidden.
And the show kind of has a double tower kind of moment, because there's the tower moment of the season 1 finale, and then the tower moment of episode like 5 or whatever, 4 or 5. Like, I think it's it's the end of episode 4, right? Because then 5 he has to fix all the time slipping, and then 6 is dedicated to him in his full control of his power. And so I was thinking the clock tower. When I'm thinking of the clock itself, I think to myself, in the show, the one thing that effectively is like is there's that main office. It almost has a Starship Enterprise-esque kind of like layout, and then they've got they got that window that looks over the TVA, but then they've got that drop ball that has the sacred timeline where they can track when there's a branch, right? And so I think that is the representative of a clock tower when you're outside of time and space looking at a linear timeline.
Totally, and they're being epicures because they're cutting away the unwanted. They're being very choosy with what is accepted onto that branch.
Right.
That's totally Epicurean.
This is, it's not just Epicurus. It's also what's his name? This is I've told the story in many different contexts. But it's the Greek mythos for Capricorn, the water goat. It's like, this is like one of the sons of Kronos. He's like a lesser time deity. And I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but he is the father of all of the water goats. And the water goats were the most divine children of the gods, the most loved, because they had all the magic because of their hybrid nature between water and land. But all of the water goats got tempted to stay on land and lose their water legs, and thus they lost their magic. It was all connected to the water side of what they were, and they could no longer speak with the gods as such. This main character, he had the equivalent of Doctor Strange's time stone, and he kept turning back time. He kept time slipping back to the beginning to try to stop everybody from going onto the land and becoming mindless goats, becoming mindless sheep, right? This is the issue of watching a parent grow up and their children making very, very foolish decisions, and you wishing that you could go back and set your kid on the right path before they screwed up, but they're inevitably just going to do it anyway, right? It's a pseudo prodigal son thing, although that myth doesn't get into the prodigal son thing. I forget how it ultimately ends for the goats, but he does not succeed in his mission. And I just am annoyed that I can't remember his darn name off the top of my head. But if I look up, whoops, I don't want to do it on this screen.
There is does the word Capia jog any memory? That's Saturn's wife, actually. She's a goat in the arms of the Auriga constellation. Does that name Capia ring a bell?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Let's see. Just strange myth of the sea goat. Lower half is a creature from myth and legend.
I love that it's a child of Zeus, that just keeps it elementally on theme for the time aspect. That the tower, one of the things about the phallus of the tower is that, of course it builds up with the intention of exploding and collapsing again. Such a phallus palace. So such is the nature of the pea.
Amalthea, the foster mother goat of Zeus. Right, okay. But Precus, thank you. Precus was one of the most significant sea goats in Greek mythology. It is said that Precus was the head of a race of sea goats and was considered their father. Kronos, hold on a second, are you... Stop.
Wow.
Hold on a second. Kronos was the creator of Precus and the group of half-goats, half-fish creatures. He gave them human-like abilities to communicate and conjure thoughts. However, their nature was to be on land, and after many failed attempts to prevent his race from existing on land, Precus was the only sea goat left in the water. This situation made him plead with his creator Kronos to end his life. However, Kronos let him live in the stars. So
wow,
that's the short story of Precus. So it's a very wise analogy story at the very least.
Yeah, man. So you totally picked up the right Post-it note and moved it into the conversation, and you may not have noticed that it was the color, because Precus can be anagrammed with the slick dissident stamp of approval into epicure.
Okay. All right. Okay.
This is a French allowance. Now, the allowances, the list of philological allowances, something I'm picking up on, and it's way too long to do it every time, but it's almost like a cultural treatise. Different allowances, I could almost invoke a time and space in the history of language that gave me permission to do this. And that's kind of fun, but it derails things quickly. But E's can become S's, thank you to the French. And my buddy, I know Louis in the chat. He's like, yeah, buddy. E's and S's are interchangeable, and it's kind of fun.
Okay.
The Spanish do this too. It's a French-Spanish thing. But so if you turn Precus, if you turn an S into an E, you can philologically get the epicure out of there. So you nailed that, buddy.
That would make me, I'd no longer be Stephen. I'd be Estevan.
Hey, that's a fucking cool-ass name.
Estevan Zerilath.
That's a fucking cool-ass name. Yeah, S's into E's is it's one of the weirdest allowances. It's probably not, it probably turns people away because it's like E's and S's are not the same, but I'll just point out that E is the fifth letter, and the number 5 looks like an S, and that's weird. I don't normally have to go into numbers to come back to letters, but it is a there, and the French do it all the time.
Okay.
Especially in the front. That's another thing about that allowance is it is in the beginning they do this S to E thing. It'll help you pick out French words if you switch E's and S's on the front. Okay. Very Epicurean to do so.
Got it. That's good stuff. All right. Is there another? Are there any more images that you had to throw up? Did you want to bring up the Enneagram again or anything like that?
Well, I want to say this. You're going to hear me. I think about you a lot, Zerilath. I consider your cosmology and my worldview so much.
I'm not your type, but thanks.
Yeah, buddy. The Filja has really hit me hard. I was already Mr. Placenta guy before I started digging into Filja.
I know you came into this world covered in it.
That's what's up, buddy. That's what's
Anyway.
up. So yeah, if people will hear me using this term quite a bit, and it will seem that I'm appropriating it, or even misusing it, or not being a good steward of the concept. But I just want to point out that it is the essence of fragility. And so people's emotional, my own, I'm assuming that people will respond like I have. So I'm speaking about myself and projecting it on those who will follow me on this thinking. But the fragility of the Filja, I think, is kind of that master's touch of je ne sais quoi, and having a sensitivity to what is frail. And the Filja and people's relationship to that in their own path, I think, is important, so important that maybe it should come less out of your subconscious and into your conscious processing. And so while it's hanging out in the background, pulling people's strings subconsciously, you're going to hear Slick Distant throwing words around like the millenniagram Filja. And there's a beautiful thread for why I would do such a thing. And I've recently found that William Butler Yeats, he had immortalized the falcon in one of his poems. So widening, wider and wider, widening on the ever widening gyre, the falcon has lost the falconer. That's one of his opening lines to one of his poems. And he's actually hailing Maud Gonne, his muse, on her adventures out, changing the world, starting revolutions, getting arrested, fucking things up. And Maud Gonne's name in reverse is almost Enneagram.
Right.
And in fact, if I had a Welsh tongue, her name would almost be Enneagram. It's really kind of obvious to me.
And
So
we talked about the falcon, and with the Egyptian side of the mythos situation, the falcon is Horus, which is the Heru, which is the Horu.
Right, right. And now something that I'm gonna be, whatever. I'll be the one who, if I'm wrong, I'll take the hit.
Okay.
There's a term I've learned from the Ars Notoria and the art of rhetoric. There are many, many techniques and cool little gimmicks in rhetoric that people do. I'm starting to actually get names for the patterns I've been seeing. One of these techniques is called the figurative etymology. That's the English version of the word, figurative etymology. And figurative etymology is it's hard to explain really, but it's kind of borrowing metaphors from other languages and putting them into your language uniquely so that it impacts people in a novel way. And so I would call it a polyglottal pun, is another way to say figurative etymologia, is a polyglottal pun. So I'm making a pun in another language that might go over your head because you don't speak that language, but guess what? Your Filja is picking it up. Your Filja is picking up what you didn't catch. And so it is the hawk that is circling above you for all those references that you didn't know that you knew. And it has to do with the ancestors and the elders and all the collective that there is.
Yeah. The Filja tip usually has an ancestor spirit gift kind of association with it, right? So it's kind of a psychopomp in that respect.
Big time. And so I guess what I'm saying is that I am self-conscious and I am aware that I'm putting a lot of weight on a single idea, and I don't want to be the one-hit wonder, one-trick pony. Notice all the figures of speech I just used there. But that figura, the figura, is going to be the collection of mouth sounds that have a common root spirit that when you rearrange it, when you try to scramble the fragility of it, there's still something at the core that I'm pointing at, something at that center of fragility. And it is the Filja of the placenta of the Millennium Falcon that is the ship you rode in on. And that's your social credit score, by the way. And then one more big crazy weave. I think you'll dig this. Robert Sapolsky is a determinist. He thinks that everything in the world comes from your hormones and your endocrine system. and that nothing, that you don't have any free will. Guess what? Too bad. It's already been determined. Thank you, Big Bang. Thank you, Spinoza. Determinism. But what's fascinating is that hormones is an overlap onto the mother of the muses. Hermione is hormones. Hermione is the mother of the muses. The muses are the Enneagram. The endocrine system is the Enneagram system. And what Robert Sapolsky is trying to tell you about determinism, I'm telling you, no, you can have mastery of your own endocrine system, and this is the control panel of the Millennium Falcon, where the language actually attaches to the spirits of your anatomy. And Robert Sapolsky is going to externalize that, and the Enneagram can internalize it, and you become the pilot of your own Millenniagram Philia.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because like when I hear about these guys with the determinism thing, right, all of it is just like a pessimism that comes from the revelation of causality. It's just like, okay, congratulations, you figured out causality, and therefore there's no free will. That's your basis for saying there's no free will? No, you're just a coward. You're just a coward who's afraid of death. That's all it is. You just said, like, well, obviously that's going to kill me, so I'm not going to do it. And that's why you think there's no free will. It's because you think that I lost the Darwin Awards because I climbed a mountain. I may have survived, but I lived on the edge of the Darwin Awards, where my seed would never have happened because I would have broken my neck and no one would have loved me.
Yeah, man.
This is the way these fucking people are, right? This is the way they fucking are.
Yeah. You know? As soon as I hear their philosophy leaning into anything vaguely remotely sounding like there is no use, it's no use. Well, funny thing, the use of usury is only possible because of your handle. Your handle is the false persona. That's how they use you. They put a handle on you, and they manipulate the handle. So the handle is your false name.
And who wrote a very, very famous play called The Messiah? Handel's Messiah.
Damn, y'all. That's profound shit. I think this is the reason why trophies have two handles, one on either side. You're like, you hold up your trophy and you're like, yeah, I owe it to myself. And you're like waving it around, but actually it's your angel is holding on to the other handle.
Right. You know, you gain the trophy. It's kind of your 10 of Cups moment.
Totally. I dig that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's another thing about the name choice of Loki. It, of course, has the lupus and the wolf. The wolf is the outcast. Again, let them wear the wolf head. But also, we know that Loki is to speak, to be loquacious, but also to relocate your perspective on things. And that is what moving around the Enneagram can do. You can say, I thought I was being a 1 right here. But in fact, on a certain level, my inner 4 was coming through. And maybe that's why this person responded to me this way, because they thought I was doing it for this reason. So you're literally able to move around a symposium of your own experiences and see not only other people's projections, but your own projections in false errors, emotion. Sure. It's an emotion. Yeah, it's an emotional matrices, and it gives us a really powerful intelligence to interface with others.
Yeah. We also have locus, Locus, and a locus has a couple of different definitions, one of which is the set or configuration of all points whose coordinates satisfy a single equation or one or more algebraic conditions, which is exactly the circumstances that leads Loki to the throne.
Big time. And he ends up, because he has to circle back, he ends up kind of doing an inception on himself in the very end, where he comes back and I have to rewatch the finale one more time. I think that's the only one I've seen the fewest amount of times.
Are you talking about where he time slips into his first conversation with Mobius?
No, the one where he goes back to his fight with Sylvie in the tower.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a fascinating series. I wasn't taken to it the first time. I didn't like the skitzing out, and I see a lot of I don't know what it's called when the camera makes a mistake, and it almost makes a cognitive dissonance where like three people go down in the elevator, and then they cut scene, and a bunch of stuff happens, and you come back to the elevator opening, and there's only two people in the elevator. And I'm like, wait, did they just incept archetype into my dreams tonight? Is that person going to pop out of my elevator in my sleep? They do. Yeah. There are very subtle little mistakes that the camera makes.
That production is too tight and too small for that kind of continuity error. Like those people are going to be like hanging out in a tight knit set. There's still COVID type of things going on both seasons that were being made. So people are staying accountable, and so like someone's going to be available to film the shot that they need to be there for.
Right.
I mean, unless there's just some dumb stuff that happens that they don't want to talk about. Like, oh yeah, had to go to the bathroom that bad, and then the shot just turned out this way, and we said, screw it, we'll do this shot. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe that happened because it was forced to happen. I don't know. Who knows?
That's a great point. I forgot about the timing of that they were all on lockdown. So yeah, there's probably much more. They probably had to lean on CGI more than we think.
Oh no, of course, because they need like for extras and shit. It's just like people like they're looking like it's just like look. There's some decent movies that came out in 2021. All those movies. Those are the ones that had to be like filmed predominantly during 2020 itself, and so they had to change up all these different things, right? Like part of the thing that makes 2020 interesting as a conspiracy is like Marvel Endgame comes out, right? Now, aside from just the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Hollywood overall for 2020 didn't have anything lined up that was very exciting. Like there was nothing lined up anyway. The stuff that came out, the pandemic as a way that we handled it as a society gave them an excuse to put everything on hold. And then they got to put out a bunch of pre-planned, oh, look at that. Just so happens we made something that you could just do at home. Here it is on Disney Plus. Hey, look at that, Disney Plus. It's just like all this stuff was like ready for like the end of theater culture, right? Nobody is super excited for a movie anymore to go like midnight premiere, dress up like the characters. That was part and parcel of Gen like Z, right? Gen Z and the millennials too. I had like millennial friends and we did that kind of thing. I'm like 1980. I'm like cusping millennial. Like I'm like the last year. I'm the last year for Gen X, right? If I was born in 81, I'd be considered millennial allegedly. So I'm a young ass Gen X, young as hell.
That's a good point about the theater shutting down. That's like an empire in and of itself,
Right. Yeah. Like Hollywood has experienced the tower. Like Loki and Matrix 4 are some of the most meta films ever made. Because they were not just meta for Hollywood, which everybody has picked up on in its most bone dense like manner in which you can look at it, which is also kind of safe because it's just like media politics kind of thing. But then there's getting to what's going on in everybody's psychology as our world is changing, as our awarenesses are changing, our feelings, our relationships to these things, and these mediums are changing. Like, this is the thing that, like, people are having a hard time reconciling the fact that they've just sat there and said, like, oh, we're not going to criticize anything that Los Angeles, California, and Hollywood does with itself. And now they're a toxic, hostile, socially isolated culture that can't get together to make a great film. And we expect these people to get us back to the moon that we're not even sure we went to the first time at this point. Like, you know, our civilization is fucking falling apart because, you know, we're lying to ourselves, the delusions of our sacred narrative of what the institutions have said. And it's not that necessarily the institution has to be destroyed, but the institution, if it doesn't admit that it's been lying to itself and destroying millions of lives needlessly over a, you know, like, because, you know, just like there's an abundance of the weird, the flow of time and space, you know, the very quantum field that is scientifically being explained in the Loki series. Thus, there is such the thing with the abundance of Mother Yord.
Well said, friend. Well said. You know, I sent you one more. This one I made last night on right after the Interverse. And this is, I think, a really important one for people to. It helps with, like, you know, we get into the definition of words and we think that it means the thing. You go look up the definition and you find a deeper layer. But the word influence has been on my mind a lot because, you know, there for a minute they were making the word influencer vilified, right? If you're an influencer on the internet, then it's important that we monitor what you have to say if you're influencing people.
Right, because you are an influenza.
That's what's happening. You're getting it, buddy. And this art of influence, I've come to realize, I think this has a great deal to do with equity. The maxims of equity, one of which is to deal in equity, one must have clean hands. And that is to say that there are no receipts, the ledger has no imperfections. But also that nobody can prove that you did it. There's no fingerprints. There's no emails. So you're operating in equity, and this is my theory. I think you're operating in equity is operating through influential channels. And this is including all of the potential definitions of that term. So influence has been on my radar because in its definitions, one of many discoveries was underhanded. Underhanded is another way of saying influence.
It's up, by the way. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So when you look into the history of this word, originally influenza got its name because in that cosmology of the day, they believed that the alignments of the stars was such that there was an off-gassing or a energetic, maybe even ether was coming down through the window and literally changing your well-being, your health, your healing. And so the word influenza actually starts with the stars. Its phenomenological source is from the stars. And now we have not turned away from that truth because the stars on the screen are still influencing us. And that what you said earlier about, I crave an ideal hero, an archetype to model so that I can have the premium output, the premium productivity, so that I can hold this ideal, this high ideal. Well, the manipulation of that high ideal is done through influence, through very subtle influences. So yeah, underhandedness is part of influence. And then I put placebo effect on here, and I played with the words play zero effect, which is to say, even if I were to suggest something is not happening, I have already planted the seed by talking it all. So play zero effect is exemplified by when people say, don't think of a blue ball. And then you thought of it, and now I can say, hey, I told you not to. I told you not to. You can't come at me. I have clean hands. I'm in equity because I told you not to. The record will show that I denied any want or intent for the blue ball to come into your mind, but it happened anyways because of play zero effect.
It's like it's like in Ghostbusters where they figure out the riddle means we get to whatever we imagine, we choose the form of the destroyer. So everybody clear your minds. And,
that's it, buddy.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. So in both movies, Dan Aykroyd's character is the one who almost botches the plan just by innocent human error. Right, he comes up with the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and he stares into the eyes of Vigo the Carpathian to get possessed, right? And both of those were all innocent. There was no conspiracy involved with it. He was typically very careful, but probably aspects of his curiosity as a scientist get the better of him.
Yes, sir. Yes. So, yes, the power of suggestion. Plausible deniability, and even this is something, what I do when I play with words and do Twilight speak. That is laying a cloud of plausible deniability, because that's not what I really said, but if you repeat it enough times in a certain context, that becomes what was meant. And so Twilight speak is also a level of this influencing and having plausible deniability, no receipts. That's not really what was going on. So enough of these patterning becomes a huge culture of gaslighting that we just throw under a rug and call influence, because it's all it's wordcraft, but it's very subtle and powerful. So with this graphic, I got to talk about the graphic more. So this is the scene where Loki fell into the mail chute. We talked about whenever a reset happens, they always topple the old delivery system and bring in a new one. That happened with the yellow fever and the resetting of the American Constitution. Yellow fever, the plague of whatever that was, took place, and they used that to hijack the delivery system of the time. And sure enough, today we have Amazon Santo is sitting real pretty after those lockdowns. They were probably put in a position to catch the fallout, which is signified by this scene here where he falls into that mail chute. It just happens to land in their lap. Look how Amazon was in a nice position to just Amazon Santo up the rest of the world. So what's cool here is he's embodying the art card, and the art card has had under her arms in the negative space. I've discovered the Aura Altair constellation, just like I did with the Fool card, that there's that altar coming from underhanded sources. I can smell something going on in the kitchen here. I can smell Mama's cooking. That the negative space of the underarms of the art card is a broken altar. It's almost like you took a pill and you broke it open, and she's hiding the artifacts of the broken altar under her arm. So in the negative space of Loki in the scene, he has an Aura Altair shape that fits perfectly under his arm. That's where it goes in art, this Altair. It's easily placed into the underarm of characters when their arms are out like that. But the other arm, this is kind of neat, is capturing the shape of the Norma constellation, which is the Masonic square. It's the writer's block, or the writer's crop is the Masonic square. And it has the constellation is not just, sometimes it's depicted as an L, like a writer's crop. It has other more detailed shapes to it. In this graphic that I've made, I've taken the actual proper constellation Norma, which is in the shape of the window. It's blocked out. You can't really see her window very well because the bag of goodies is in the way. But the shape of her window is also refracting the shape of his underarm. And he is influence. He is just flew in off the wind. He just landed out of nowhere. And he's influencing the weight of the vessel. He's throwing it off kilter. And so many subliminal visual puns are intrinsic. But what I think I'm seeing here is a master's touch of director's art, that the Norma would be under his arm behind the driver, but then it's also refractal. You can see how I took the shape and kind of enlarged it and grew it out to come closer to the onlooker. And it has a larger refractiveness closer to us. So it's literally visually magnifying itself as it gets closer and closer. And so this is the new normal. The new normal is alterations, change, and even the ability to send drugs in the mail. That is the new normal. You can get almost anything sent to you off the black market in the mail thanks to the new ways.
You're welcome.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, cool. So I think the last thing I want to talk about, and then we're going to start wrapping up the show, is some of the implications about He Who Remains himself. One of the wild theories that I kind of came up with that we'll hit off talking about this is that I think that whether it's deliberate or just picked up in the ethers by the Disney people, is that He Who Remains is a great fit for Seven Bomar of Understanding.
I'm just reeling on this, man.
Yeah,
I'm reeling on this.
Yeah. Because the level of just like smooth confidence, metaphysical principle, everything else. I mean, like, I've listened to enough Seven Bomar to know that if it was our Seven Bomar, he would have figured out how to work a multiversal thing the way Loki did, or what would have made a decision that somehow made that all work if he could, right? Because of course that's the problem with it all, right? So it is kind of looking at it as saying, like, probably any human genius, even one with as such a benevolent take on this whole metaphysics thing for the best of everybody, they might get squashed into a quantum singularity of being kind of a bad guy on a temporal level, right? To a whole lot of people that got cast out of all of time and space, were unmade, histories erased from ever being known, because everyone who ever knew what happened also never was. Like, just like that's like the second death,
Yeah, buddy, I'm loving this weave. Chance and I, when we revealed our interpretation to each other, we both came up with different answers, which is fun too. So he brought forward, and both of our answers were more high-profile celebrity, public-facing, obvious. But I think you've picked up on the more subtle note that is hiding under what is obvious.
Right.
And
the thing with He Who Remains is, and not just Victor Timely, is that He Who Remains, by the circumstances of what got him right there, he is correct.
Right.
Right? Yeah. And there's never been a god or a great spirit that has gone for this, because it's almost a something that he created, and that there wasn't one before anyone could have ever stepped outside of all conceivable boundaries, to step outside the cube of Saturn itself and then all of a sudden you find yourself capable of being the master of it.
Big time. And one thing that hit me when you told me about this was that Seven Bomar, he has the S and the B in his initials.
Mm-hmm.
That is strength and beauty. It's got a Masonic tracing board, whatever, potential.
Okay.
I'm not accusing anybody of anything.
No.
Yeah.
I think 7's on the level. I like 7.
Totally. But one thing that is kind of synchronistic about it is I'm pretty sure antimonium is signified by the SB. I don't know. Oh, yeah, I do. I have it right here. Antimonium is makeup. It's in makeup. It's a key ingredient for makeup. And what's crazy about Seven Bomar is he is one of the first people I have ever seen doing his whole shtick with false, what do they call it? Augmented facial stuff that you look like a cartoon when you talk.
Yeah. Running, well, that's just running through certain graphical filters. You can buy like a filter that's been around for a while. It's not an AI thing. It's just it's a sophisticated facial recognition algorithm, and it's dope. It's dope as fuck.
Yeah. So for him to have initials that are hailing to the alchemist, I've seen alchemists use SB and this antimony and makeup as a facade for their name, for their identity. Mm. So when you mentioned SB, I realized he's got that same thing going on that, I know Falconelli used pot ash to change his skin tone so he could hide out in the Romas and disappear off the grid. So this using makeup to disappear and go into migration or in exile or on retreat, it's also fascinating. Pot ash was in the headlines while the migration topic was a hot button. So they had pot ash and migration. So that's the seeding. To those who know spycraft and have read some of these books, pot ash and migration in the same headlines on the same day is like the spies are having fun right over our heads, basically. So when you mentioned Seven Bomar, I was seeing Falconelli Falconelli reveal. I think you're nailing it, buddy. Because Chance had Kanye, great fit. That's a humdinger, and I had George Floyd. Right, these are like all things that will piss people off to the utmost.
Well,
but I think underneath that, there's like there's a calm, serene option that isn't so triggering, and I think that's the Seven Bomar of it. I love it.
Right. Well, yeah, and Seven Bomar, he's he's on our side, right? He's on this side of the revelations, right? He's not somebody who went into further shutdown. Those would be conclusions that people that are just looking at superficial politics are going to draw. People that don't know, don't care, wouldn't see the significance, wouldn't realize that Seven Bomar is kind of that smart, like I might be kind of that smart. Yeah, but let's face facts. I'm not reading quantum physics stuff, but I got friends who are. Yeah. So,
I got one thought.
Yeah.
Let's keep this on the record. Let's put a pin in this because that character that plays He Who Shall Remain, he's in real life or whatever that means. He's going through a court trial for domestic violence right now. Let's just keep our ear on the ground to see if there are any influential ripples onto Bomar's life. If somehow if there's if there's an influence, a byproduct from this film and from the destiny of the actor that might disseminate down onto Bomar. Because you and I were
we'll
see.
On this before. We'll see. Like whatever it is, I'm hoping that if it's a problem, that he can solve it. Because I don't think I don't think that this film or the character who maybe resonating at a similar level of louche for them is going to affect any of that, because his like his world, his DOS, like it's just like nothing of Hollywood is consequential to him, and the legal system. I mean, like he's in Costa Rica and shit, and
But dude, I gotta object. Doesn't that make him the perfect test specimen? The fact that it's unlikely, doesn't that make him the perfect one to try it out on? And you use the word frequency. This is like sympathetic frequency.
Are we talking about the concept of kind of using the actor that might be like Seven as a voodoo doll?
Yes, sir. Yes, we are. We're also talking about how you can take two tuning forks of the same value that we're talking about right now, and you strike the one, and the other will sympathetically resonate to it. And I think this theory, this technique, can be has been completely systematically implemented. And you and I wove on a couple other examples in Hollywood.
Yeah.
One of which was Robert Zephyr, who I think was inseminated into the White Noise movie with the Nazi specialist. I think they were emulating Zephyr and probably hoping to get a cacophony of feedback from manipulating that voodoo doll, if you will.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, like, if that's what they're doing, that doesn't go well for them, right? You have to, like, this is a part of how curse magic works, because we're talking about a form of curse magic. It's personal. It only works personal. So if you're looking at the patterns of what could be used mechanically for curse magic, know that there had to be a personal dynamic between the caster and the target, right? Somebody screwed somebody over for money. Somebody murdered someone's child, etc.,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So thus, you will see instead, because I doubt very much, because Seven doesn't need to be on their radars. He doesn't have to have a history with them, and I don't believe that he does one way or the other, right? You should be seeing a psychic backlash on this. Like the curse backfires, and it will eat at them because it needs to feed off of something's louche, and it can't.
You made me so excited.
And it can't. The spell cannot violate natural law, and because you're assaulting an innocent man, it doesn't work.
I love this, Zerilath. This is so important, man. Okay, I got to put two counter arguments forward, because I agree, but I don't think we're right.
Right. The only way that it works is if Seven has a low will, and the character gets to him, gets in his head, then he can trick himself into adopting it, right? And that works on the weak-willed.
Now, hold on. Let's check this whole equation. Did the writer, the person who cast the spell, were they influenced into making it happen? So that the writer of the story, like you're saying, that's karmically going to come back onto them. But what if they have a handler? What if there's this is the clean hands of equity. And like we think that this karmic causal chain is going to land on the source. But I'm telling you that the clean hands of equity and influence is a cut line. That it won't get to the person who is influencing the writer, because they were using influence.
Yeah.
And
that starts to get into nitty gritty company politics, right? Now you're talking about people that have a screenwriter guild, credentials, and all these other different things. The influence of producers. Remember, Tom Hiddleston himself is the executive producer for this series. Allegedly, he wanted this to be his personal magnum opus as an actor. That's what he wanted to actually go with Loki, of all things, right? So there's a whole lot going on, a whole lot of interconnected strings, and there's still the aspect of the entity itself being a thing, just like how people talk about certain movies end up getting made in Hollywood, and like the way that they're made is almost like divine intervention, right? Like the way Loki saves the day in the last episode is with such direct focus of exactly how things should work and the immediacy of the ability to jump into doing exactly the right thing so everything works out perfect. That is what happens with Rahu, the north node of the moon, on a good day. And Rahu is part of is one of the representations here for I think it's I think we're talking in terms of shoot, I'm trying to remember exactly the mythos lineup, because Rahu is in the Vedic, and then that I think corresponds to Hati, and then because Ketu I think would involve goes with skull, or vice versa, something like that, right? And it's this head, this the head that's been severed off of the dragon, and it just it eats, and it can never be full because it has no stomach. And that's Rahu, but it's filled with this strong, focused thing that of desire, and that's why it's a wolf, because it has this massive appetite that leads it, right? Like I have my north node in my Vedic chart is conjunct Mars, right? So it's been a big reason why I do things in such an explosive way, especially when it hits me in the passion. All of my energy just wants to get poured into doing it. This stream right now has that going on with me. When the music is right with my guitar, that's what's going on with me, right? When it all clicks, right? The last episode, Loki is able to be pure good luck.
Totally, buddy. Great. He's got the green throne. He's looking like my backdrop right here, but
Just
with
a little
Loki
bit.
sitting.
Yeah. Just a
But with
little bit.
Loki's sitting in there.
Yeah, they made him look boss as fuck. It was great. So anyway, my man, we've been at it for a little over 3 hours, and I think this has been more than satisfactory for this itch I needed to scratch on both seasons. And I hope that this is a good addendum to what you and Chance are doing over there. Really laying some brilliant groundwork that hopefully will help some people on their path.
Big time, man. Yeah, thank you so kindly, dude. You're totally bringing levels and levels of inception to the project that are just going to reward others going forward as best as I can. I love to magnify other people's weaves, and the Bomar thing is a trip and a half, bro. Trip and a half.
Isn't it? Isn't it? And to be honest with you, I almost think like they almost did a double with him, because I almost want to say that on another level of portraying him as a supervillain, the High Evolutionary from Guardians of the Galaxy 3 kind of works too. Right?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Seven would never do that kind of tech, like all the nasty stuff, but Seven would do things like try to make a golden race. I think he would do that with divine intentions, right?
Dude, you took it to. We're not done yet. Get comfortable, y'all. We're not going anywhere. Hold on.
All right. Well, I'll let you jump on. I'll let you jump on that, because I did open a can of worms. We're still wrapping this up, but please let's. I'll let you respond to that. I have to let you respond to that.
I promise to head towards the exit with all of this, but damn,
it's all good.
Bro.
It's my fault. It's my fault. I had to hit you one more time.
Buddy. Oh my gosh. Okay. Dude, you really do. You inform so much. This is going to build out big time. But okay, that is Zeno, that character from the maid rocket. What's his name? The head evolutionary. Yeah. That is Zeno from Scientology. That is Yakub from the fifth, whatever, the hip hop rap cult,
right.
Boule Brotherhood.
Yeah.
That is totally Xeno, and to correspond him to Bomar is those are opposites. This is enantiodromia, right? One is evil and one is
Yeah.
beautiful and good. So they're like
It's also
they're
the it's also the
opposites.
Enki and Leal thing.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You have
So
to watch my whole. I did a whole weave with Chris, King of Cups,
nice.
and Joshua the Branch. We did a trifecta on Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It was a banger. We talked all about soul code genetics because that's what's going on with the High Evolutionary, is that he is toying with soul code genetics and he's trying to get the science of making a soul, and that's why he acts like a monster, is because he doesn't get it.
Dude, is Seven Bomar Xeno Bomar? Like, what do the Scientologists think about Seven Bomar? Dude, I'm serious. There are no fucking holy cows anymore. There are no holy cows anymore. Okay, can you pull up my last three graphics in a quick flash? I will not drag. I promise to go fast. Can you start with the Destroyer? And everybody get your screen caps ready, because
All right.
these things unpack over time, and we don't have the time. So number 7, Socrates, Set Arcos is his name in reverse. Set is the Destroyer. He permeates into everything very quickly because of that 7 relationship. But there are a great many words we should just keep on our radar when we hear about this gluttonous scientific optimism that is running amok in the name of the mystagogue of science, Socrates, the 7th speaker in the symposium. Number 7 personality type. So this Set Arcos Destroyer character has many incarnations, and I think people are fighting over who's got the mantle right throughout history. But SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States of America, is hailing to the SCOTUS rite of Freemasonry. Scotland is hailing Scotia. Scotia is hailing this archonic power of the Destroyer that is the Arco Set, the Set Arco. And so Supreme Court is, I could go through all the branches of government, but Supreme Court is presumed to cut. And it is the umbilical. They want to be the mother feeder. They want to be the feeder of all, the federal feeder. So I'm just going to flash this and put this on people's radar around the 7. I'm not saying numbers are evil. I'm not saying 7 Bomar is evil. I'm saying there is a consistency to the archetype of what he has signed up for when he chose that name. And it's a heavy responsibility that I'm not saying he's bad or good. I'm saying he has chosen a name with a lot of weight, and it is going to, when they hit this time, it's going to resonate on him no matter how high and mighty he may or may not be. Can you go to the next graphic?
Yep. Hold on. I'm toying with it. Yep.
Yep. So one thing about the Japheth in that graphic, the reason I have Japheth there is because angelically in the angelic realms, the number 7th angel is actually Japhael. And so there is a linguistic tie to Set and Japheth, but it's a trip and a half to me because through separate paths, I find Japhael corresponding to the 7. So that's why that's there. And that's a weave in itself, but we're just flying through. The next graphic is this was my presentation on He Who Remains, who I was corresponding more strongly to George Floyd. But now that you've brought the Bomar thing, dude, I can't unsee it. But his initiatory scene where he comes out of the elevator and he's holding an apple in his hands, that apple, of course, is initiation. A is for Apple. And they're selling Apple products. And also there's a new Smith has taken a new throne. I don't know if it's George Soros or if it's it's one of those guys from the WEF. They just handed Kissinger. I think it's Kissinger has already handed his empire over to somebody whose name is Smith. So the Apple Smith is the trigger of knowledge. But then Smith Remodernization Act, he's presuming to control history, right? That's what the Smith Modernization Act is going to do. They can fucking make history say anything they want it to say. This was and then fragility was key to his tower. The ambiance of the tower had cracks all throughout it, and that is the broken pottery that is called, let me get this, Kaitsugi. Kaitsugi is putting pottery back together with gold so that it's even more beautiful, that the break was that part of the process to make it better.
Yeah, and
that
that's
is
how the whole tower looks. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also Tikin Olum, the remelding of the tower, but it's also, we're all on thin ice right now. And their fight scene was literally choreographed with ice skating maneuvers. So I think there's some Olympics intrinsic to the magic of the close scene. Can you go to the next one?
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I love your Bomar thing, dude. I'm so inclined. I think it's both and, like Chance was right, I was right, but you were right on a level that nobody would have picked up on because we were looking for the obvious triggers, for the ones that are abrasive. But I think you found a real smooth pill that would have slipped behind the scenes. And yeah, that last graphic is. I was thinking originally that He Who Remains, when he's in the tower and he's wearing that purple, I had him pinned as a fortune card, which he is. He's controlling fates, right? We're talking about the fates, the Moire, the Vates. But he's also, like you were saying, depends on the scene. They kind of change it up a little bit. He's also, when he's Victor Timely, he's the death card. Because he's in a whole other motif and a whole other phase of his life. But when he's in the high tower, I have him pegged as a strong wheel card. Machiavelli gave Fortuna a strong prominence in the zeitgeist of man. So for him to be playing the role of a Machiavellian manipulator behind the scenes is very correspondent to Fortuna, one of Machiavelli's favorite egregores. But when I looked up elevator wheel, almost all of them are in the color of this fortune card, which in my read is not just Fortuna from Machiavelli. Has to do with the God machine, the Deus Ex Machina, because it's card number X. So the God machine in the sky is signified by this card, and sure enough, all elevators have a yellow, particularly this color yellow wheel. And he appears in an elevator in his opening scene. So here we have Prince died in an elevator. There's another tether of a trigger, but also the God machine of it all is intrinsic as well. So these were kind of my weaves of how George Floyd has become a God machine that they can summon whenever they need people to get all up in a tizzy. So yeah, that was kind of my read. I had a lot of George Floyd.
Yeah. I don't know. Because I'm not paying attention to that side, I don't know how much power the George Floyd thing still has, because as time goes by, people talk real about it, and especially if you have a racial filter, the black community has to have the conversation about who George Floyd is, because those that have been kind of exploited long enough by the system, they can't trust that the world is the way that certain white people and other types have seen it, as opposed to the comfort of having their victim narrative validated, right? To thus have an excuse because they feel that what happened to George Floyd happened to them.
Right. And here's another thing. I want to when they get in the elevator, it's kind of funny. There's a cuckolding metaphor, because Sylvie can't stop jumping on him. She jumps from behind. She jumps him from behind, and then she jumps him over here on the bench. She tries to jump him 3 times. She tries to jump him, and Loki's just sitting back watching. And so there is a Freudian subliminal sexual innuendo that she couldn't wait to even get out of the elevator. She had to jump him 3 times before they got out of the elevator, and that is cunningly seeded by George Floyd, because while everybody's got their hearts going out to him for the first couple of weeks, then there's some reverberative feedback where we find out, oh, wait, he was a porn star? And then some people are like, sweetheart, you were really worked up about that porn star, weren't you? And it's like, oh shit, we're all eating our words on what we thought that guy really meant. So yeah, symbols are so profound, man. They're so profound. And we consume them. We literally eat symbols. I think we should think of it that way, that we eat them. And then later on, we might get indigestion when we find out what they're really like.
Yeah. Absolutely. Woo. All right.
Big leads, buddy.
So,
Big
all right. So
leads.
we got through all that. We're good. We're satisfied.
So satisfying.
Excellent. All right, let's just check the chat real quick before we say goodbye. If I forgot to mention, Nicholas Burnett was here. Thank you, Nicholas, also for showing up. Let's see, any questions, any direct referrals to us? No, but people have been talking about their own revelations about things. Like somebody mentioned Back to the Future. We were talking about the clock tower. I was almost going to mention Back to the Future, but I wanted to get to the Miss Minutes point that I had pop up and all that stuff. So yeah, no, everything was great, guys. Thank you so much. Next time I find some time, I'm gonna go live again and do my Heidegger thing. I appreciate all of you for being here. Slick, I appreciate you coming on, making some cool, interesting stuff that's going to be helpful to a lot of people here on my channel. I'm gonna run the closing screen. That'll be like 1 minute or something like that. So hang tight, and I'll catch you guys later. If you want a tarot or rune reading from me, by the way, Zerilath at freedomslips.com. Zerilath at freedomslips.com. Email me. We'll set something up. I charge about $90 for an hour. All right. Peace out.
Yeah, buddy. It was great being with you, man. It was fun splitting chest hairs with you.
Yeah. Oh, and Slick, you want to you want to promote yourself, obviously, duh.
Oh yeah, Slick Dissonant over on the YouTube. Come over. I got a Cash App now. Y'all can reciprocate some love my way. But yeah, I'm on the Interverse with Chance Carton. And every once in a while, you'll catch me on the One-on-One and the Paranoid American. And one of these days, I'll get back with the Rising from the Ashes crew. And yeah, those are my haunts.
Yep.
I guess, you know what? Check out Occultus Mundi from One-on-One. That's a really good little mag that he was doing for a while. And I just want to drum up interest in it because it seems to be a pet project he's neglecting. So the more people, buzz around it, the better chance it will survive.
Yeah. And Juan was recently on Project Cheney and Old World Florida. He was on Old World Florida last night. It was hysterical because they were showing Florida. They had the big picture up of the Florida with the guy's penis because of that esoteric kind of thing. So they went with it for a while, and Juan was freaking out. It was hysterical, and Lando was just like, "Nah, dude, relax, you're fine." It's just like with this big ugly Florida penis. Oh my God, it was hysterical. Anyway, I will catch you guys on the flip side.
Big love and respect, John.